Chapter 1397. Well, it was not completely useless. It even had a new function, chatting. A child in yellow clothes came out and sat on the gourd to watch him fight. Then he chatted with the other 3 gourd children intimately. "Ah, you're all here. I thought I saw wrongly last time. What would you do if we didn't come? I don't know what to do. Anyway, I'm just a gourd. Is this little 8 and little 9? There's a new one? TSK. They're not bad looking. I actually have a younger sister. It's Bai and Gio. They're drinking wine. Not bad. Look at their potential. Both of them are stronger than us." Nonsense. We've all been refined and turned into magic treasures. Our potential is limitless. The 2 of them are raised as sons and daughters by someone with great providence. How can they be the same? I'm so envious. I want to be raised as a son too. Why don't I have such luck? Who wouldn't be envious? What about you? Where did you end up? Speaking of my fate, I'm still considered passable. I followed the Grand Pure Sage. Sigh, at first I could still participate in battles and come out to play occasionally. Later on, I was completely used as a storage unit. This old man has many magic treasures. Usually, he only uses me as a storage unit. In these hundreds of Yuan Hui, I've only appeared once and stayed in the human world for more than 10 years. I can't bear to look back on the past. Sigh, I was only thrown out recently. I'm living happily with little 8 and little 9. You've reunited? So, you're being raised as a son by someone with great providence? Not really. They're blood related. At most, I'm a godson. How can a godson compare to a biological son or daughter? The yellow gourd showed sincere envy. Even if he's a godson, he's still a son. I'm so envious that you're reunited and raised as sons. Boo-hoo. I really want to be a son. A godson is fine too. It doesn't matter if I'm a son or a godson. Anyway, I'm living a good life now. You don't know, little 8 and little 9 still have the supplies their mother left for them. It's as boundless as the ocean. They can swim as much as they want in it. I've swum in there a few times. It's so comfortable. Aha. I want to swim too. TSK, your master treats you like a treasure. How could he allow you to go? It's not up to him. Do you think I don't know what happened just now? After a while, I, as the master, will accept my loss and will no longer be my master. Ha ha ha. I will soon be able to become a son. That makes sense. By the way, you're just my godson in the past. Don't even think about climbing over my head. Understood. We are all godson. You should tell me quickly. What is Mother's Sea of Vitality like? Wait, how is our mother now? You'll know soon enough. I'm looking forward to it. Let's hurry up and finish it. 3 gourds were fighting, and one was chatting that the 10th crown prince was so angry that his eyes were about to crack and smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. There was actually such a thing in the world. The magical equipment that he had cultivated with his life, for who knows how many years, was actually not listening to his command. He obviously didn't know the crux of the matter, and the current situation was normal. The immortal slaying flying dagger, hidden in the yellow-skinned gourd, was one of the few killing weapons in the primordial age. Only supreme-grade connate numinous treasures could withstand it, and even harder to shield its killing aura. On the other hand, if the yellow-skinned gourd didn't release the immortal slaying flying dagger, the dagger could only stare helplessly. Apart from being a supreme-grade connate numinous treasure, the yellow-skinned gourd was also a connate life form. It naturally had its own consciousness. How could it not know that releasing the immortal slaying flying dagger would deal with his own brother? Whether his brother was afraid of the immortal slaying flying dagger was one matter, but whether he released it or not was another matter. Anyway, he also hoped that his side would quickly lose, and he would be defeated, so that he could reunite with his 3 brothers and sisters. Not listening to his command and having no moral integrity was the most important thing. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh. A spear appeared out of thin air, emitting black smoke as it rushed over. As soon as it met, it drilled a hole in the 10th prince's long spear. Following that, it pierced through the 10th prince's thigh. Immediately, blood flowed out, but it was immediately engulfed in flames. Seeing this, the 10th prince was scared out of his wits. God-slaying spear. It was actually the God-slaying spear? My God, why did the God-slaying spear appear here? I admit defeat. You can't admit defeat. It hasn't been 4 hours yet. It's still early. Continue. Today we, the Calabash brothers, will join forces to fight the Demon Crown Prince. How can we not write a beautiful story? Then another Calabash popped out. Looking carefully, this Calabash who joined last was in a phantom state. It said excitedly, "Let's go together. How can I be left out?" But the phantom opened its small mouth, and 2 Cheelants suddenly appeared. They brazenly entered the battle and surrounded the 10th prince. Then the number of people in the chat group became 5. 5 Calabashes gathered to chat. It was the spirit clone of the Grandmaster of Heaven's Calabash. He sensed it and rushed over to join in the fun. For a moment, the Calabash and the Calabash had a meeting, and it was very lively. The 10th Crown Prince was increasingly at a disadvantage. He was unable to parry or retaliate. But the 10th Prince's Calabash still clapped his hands and shouted from time to time, "Come on." But the target of his cheering was not the 10th Prince, but the enemy of the 10th Prince. This battle could be considered as a new beginning, and it was full of fun. Any expert from the ancient times would shed tears of sympathy if they saw such a situation. With 4 Calabashes and the god-slaying spear working together, even the Demon Crown Prince might not be able to win. Not to mention the Demon Crown Prince, who was betrayed by his own magic treasure. The 10th Prince felt like he was being beaten every minute and every second. He could not help but cry out miserably, "What's the time limit? Say something." "For hours," Abai said. "How long has it been? It's almost over, right?" "It's not even an hour now. Take your time." The 10th Prince growled in despair. He felt his vision turn black. In other words, he still had to endure 3 hours of crazy ravaging before he could be released. What the fuck is this? The 10th Prince held his head with one hand and covered his crotch with the other. He shouted in grief and indignation, "Can you stop using the god-slaying spear? I won't resist anymore." Then he squatted on the ground. "Yen Shirsi, go back. We don't need you here." Abai gave the order. Yen Shirsi flew away unwillingly. The situation was better than him. The Calabashes were having a meeting, so he had no say in it. Next, punches, kicks, and hammers landed on the 10th Prince's body continuously. It was an unprecedented crazy beating that would make anyone who heard it cry that it was purely a one-sided beating, that the 10th Prince was like a rubber ball that was being beaten and kicked around. In less than 2 hours, his body was swollen twice up. But why would the Calabashes care about this? They felt that it was very satisfying to chat and fight at the same time. So they continued to beat and talk at the same time. They were already used to it. They giggled. "How fun." Outside. Demon Empress she frowned. "Can Yuan come out by herself?" Demon Crown Prince pursed his lips. "You're thinking too much. There are at least 3 Calabashes inside. Do you think he can come out after beating him up? This is a supreme grade treasure that the Grand Pure One has nurtured for his entire life. Not to mention him. Even we would have to put in a lot of effort to get out if we accidentally fall into it. Then isn't he going to lose for sure?" When he flew into a rage, he had already lost. You have to thank Brother Little Duo for not wanting to take his life. If he had the slightest bit of evil intentions, dying 100 times over wouldn't be a big deal. Demon Crown Prince sighed. Demon Empress rolled her eyes. "This brat plotted to steal my son's treasure, and I actually have to thank him for showing mercy." She sighed as she thought about it. The Grand Pure One and the Grand Pure One had already handed over their Calabashes. Her son was nothing. Finally, 4 hours passed. Under everyone's gaze, the purple gold Calabash suddenly shook violently. With a soft thud, the 10th Prince seemed to have appeared out of thin air and landed on the ground. However, everyone's eyes trembled violently. The 10th Prince who came out was like a rubber ball. His entire body seemed to be swollen several times. He rolled freely on the ground and didn't stop for a long time. Demon Empress widened her eyes as she looked at the rolling ball. That's my son? My son has been beaten to this state. So, round. Who beat him up? Isn't this too ruthless? Without waiting for the Demon Empress to pursue the matter, and before she could step forward to protect Zhuo, who was standing outside the gourd and waiting for the result, flung out a beam of light almost immediately. The grand sun true fire immediately poured down on the 10th prince's body. To the golden crow, this thing was the best healing panacea, an eternal natal divine medicine. After a while, the 10th prince, whose body and appearance had returned to normal, stood up. Only his eyes were still a little hazy. His mind was probably destroyed too badly. His body swayed, and he turned a few rounds dizzily before he saw Zhuoxiaoduo's figure. He shook his head sadly. I lost. Without saying anything else, he removed the soul binding with the yellow-skinned calabash. The immortal slaying flying blade was good. However, when the immortal slaying flying blade encountered the calabash of the same origin, it actually produced such a reaction that it had long exceeded the 10th prince's expectations. If he didn't experience this personally, he wouldn't dare to believe it even if he was beaten to death. Anyway, the 10th prince didn't want such a treasure now. Well, mainly he didn't dare to take it anymore. If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. You dare to do and dare to accept the consequences. The 10th prince is really open and aboveboard. Zhuoxiaoduo put away the yellow-skinned calabash with a smile. Then, he poured out a 9-transformation golden pill from the calabash and handed it over. This is a small token of appreciation from Xiao. Don't mind it. The 10th prince smiled bitterly and didn't argue. He put away the golden pill and said, Zhuoxiaoduo, your goal has been the immortal slaying flying blade from the beginning, right? Chapter 1398. Zhuoxiaoduo smiled and said, that is indeed the case. This is a karma that cannot be avoided. Therefore this battle must be fought. The 10th crown prince snorted and said, I guessed it the moment you brought up the challenge. Haha, I am not as skilled as you. It is not an injustice to lose to a person of great fortune like you. Then, he threw the elixir into his mouth and sat down cross-legged to heal his wounds. The grand sun true fire could heal the internal and external injuries of the pure-blooded golden crow. But the greatest damage to the 10th crown prince came from his heart and mind. Although the 9 transformations golden elixir could not heal these injuries, it could greatly increase the 10th crown prince's cultivation and repair his mind. It could be said to be the best elixir at the moment. Zhuoxiaoduo laughed and said gracefully, you are indeed the crown prince of the demon emperor. You know when to pick up and when to let go. Everyone nodded inwardly when they heard this. The 10th crown prince's gracefulness was indeed admirable. The only mistake was that he accepted the challenge when he could have avoided it. Firstly, he knew that Zhuoxiaoduo wanted to steal his treasures, but his imperial father and imperial mother were clearly here. Yet they didn't stop him. Their tacit approval was obvious, so he couldn't avoid it. Secondly, he also had a greedy heart and hoped for a fluke. After all, if he won, he would have a great advantage. Under the influence of his greed, he knew that his chances of winning weren't high, but he still wanted to fight with all his might. It was due to the combination of several factors that the outcome of this battle was already decided. Or else, with the yellow-skinned calabash in front of him, Zhuoxiaoduo was already determined to scheme. Furthermore, with the karma of Xiao, it was almost inevitable that the 10th crown prince would be killed by Zhuoxiaoduo when he had the chance. Why did the phrase, a small token of appreciation from Xiao, not have a double meaning? Of course, after investigating Zhuoxiaoduo, the 10th crown prince already had misgivings. This was also the key to his compromise. After all, the rumored Iron Fist young master had a vicious temperament and treacherous methods. Everyone knew this in their hearts. This man would definitely not show mercy, especially in order to achieve his goal. He would do anything by fair means or foul. In addition, this guy was shameless and shameless. He was extremely dangerous. It would be better to end things as soon as possible. At this moment, a woman's voice came from the sky. She said indifferently, the 10th crown prince of the demon clan, Crown Prince Yuan. I've heard so much about you. First there was Hong Jun, then there was Heaven. Dao Monarch Luya is even before you. How domineering. Everyone looked up in the direction of the voice. A white cloud in the sky suddenly transformed into the appearance of a woman. The person who came was dressed in snow-white clothes. She was cold and unapproachable. She was extremely beautiful. When Zhuoxiaoduo saw her, she instinctively called out, Sister Yun Xiao? All the demon gods raised their heads in unison, their faces solemn. Fairy Yin Xiao. The 10th Crown Prince let out a long sigh and said, Fairy, how have you been? Yin Xiao first smiled at Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian, before saying to the 10th Crown Prince, Dao Monarch Luya, that's what I wanted to say to you. It's good that you've been well since we last met. Her gaze was cold and her face was frosty. Her aura was cold and her aura was like a sword that was carved into her bones. She bit her lips and said word by word, For so many years, I've been praying to the heavens at the bottom of Qilin Cliff day and night. I prayed that you, Dao Monarch Luya, would be healthy and have a long lifespan. I prayed that you wouldn't meet a strong enemy and die in the hands of others. I prayed that you would have a smooth journey, and that you would live until I leave Qilin Cliff. These words were full of praises for the good and kind. But in everyone's ears, there was not a single person who didn't shudder. Including the Demon Emperor Donghuang and the Demon Empress, their expressions changed drastically. Every word seemed to be praising and praying for kindness. However, the hatred in every word was so deep that it made one's heart bleed. It was a ghastly sight. It was a bone-deep hatred that could not be extinguished for generations. The 10th Crown Prince said softly, Fairy Yin Xiao, why do you have to be like this? The past is over. Yin Xiao smiled coldly and said coldly, The past is over? I know that you really want the past to be over. However, it's all thanks to you that I can survive at the bottom of Qilin Cliff for so many years. If not for the fact that you're still in this world, my Dao heart would have shattered long ago. I would have collapsed and died. If not for the fact that you're still in this world, I would have died under Ronding's Dao heart attack. Just because you're still alive, I can't die no matter what. Just because you're still in this world, even if the saints and Dao ancestors are gathered, I won't die without a fight. Luya. Yin Xiao suddenly roared into the sky. The wind and clouds surged and the world changed. Do you still remember Zhao Gongming? Do you still remember my two sisters? Luya, you're weaker than others. When you scheme to harm others, did you ever think that you're the son of the Demon Emperor, Donghuang's nephew? Are you worthy of your identity? Are you worthy of the title of Demon Crown Prince? The past is over. With all the karma in front of you, how can the past be over? Yin Zhao's aura was like a rainbow. Her eyes slowly turned blood red. Her previous otherworldly immortal beauty was no longer there. She was filled with a murderous aura. You've just fought and are injured. Although you can do despicable and shameless things, I, Yin Xiao, can't do anything to take advantage of others. I'll give you 4 hours to recover. After 4 hours, we'll fight to the death in front of your Demon Emperor Palace, in front of your father and mother. We'll end everything. After saying that, Yin Xiao stood in midair with her hands behind her back. Her cold eyes looked at the 10th Crown Prince without blinking. The Demon Emperor rose on a cloud and said calmly, Fairy Yin Xiao, I'm Dijun. From the perspective of the perfected Shangqing, Fairy Yin Xiao should call me Uncle Master. However, that's fine. Does Fairy Yin Xiao think so? Fairy Yin Xiao cupped her hands and bowed respectfully. Disciple of Jie School Yin Xiao greets Uncle Master Demon Emperor. His words and actions actually followed the proper etiquette, and were very strict. Dijun sighed softly and said, I'm ashamed to be addressed as Uncle Master by you. If Uncle Master has something to say, why don't you speak frankly? What Yuan did back then was indeed a mistake. Furthermore, it was a grave mistake. The Demon Emperor said slowly, Your master mentioned this matter to me in the Purple Cloud Palace some time ago. I once promised Senior Brother Tongtian that I would definitely bring Yuan to the Green Turing Palace to beg for forgiveness. About this, disciple niece Yin Xiao should know. Yin Xiao said slowly, When Master returned, he told me that Uncle Master and Anti-Demon Emperor wanted to bring Yuan over to beg for forgiveness. However, the karma of the grudge back then was caused by my family being killed for no reason. Therefore, Master did not intend to make a decision for me. Instead, he specially asked me how he planned to deal with this matter. What did you say? The Demon Emperor sighed in his heart. I told Master that the blood feud is irreconcilable. I don't want others to settle the karma on my behalf. I'm unwilling even if Master wants to settle it personally. I, Yin Xiao, have a deep feud with this Dao Lord Luya. We can't live under the same sky. Either he will be consigned to eternal damnation or I, Yun Xiao, will die. We can't live under the same sky. Fairy Yun Xiao stood in the clouds with her white robes fluttering. Her expression was stern and her words were like swords. I understand that this person is the beloved son of Uncle Master Demon Emperor, and Auntie's flesh and blood. However, this hatred cannot be reduced. Even if I have to die, I have to settle the score with this person. Uncle Master, please know about this matter. If Uncle Master and Auntie can't understand or punish me, I will bear the responsibility. After Yun Xiao finished speaking, she bowed to the Demon Emperor and stood up after a while. Yun Xiao's words were extremely firm. Although she was gentle and courteous, there was no room for negotiation. The Demon Emperor and Demon Empress both let out a deep sigh. The Demon Empress, Shihi's gaze was conflicted. There weren't many of these ancient powerhouses who were truly unreasonable. No one would really not care about the word karma. Back then, during the God Conferment War, the 10th prince was the only one among the princes of the demon race who was traveling outside. He changed his name to Luya and plunged in. Moreover, the matter had truly deteriorated to the point of no return. It began when Luya joined and shot Zhao Gongming to death with the Nailhead 7-arrow book. Chan school had no way out. All of a sudden, the entire Jia school went crazy. The matter worsened and expanded to the point where the 12 golden immortals of Chan school could not suppress it, and were no match for it. In the end, the saint personally took action. Zhao Gongming was the elder brother of the 3 Yun Xiao sisters. The 3 Xiao immortals came out of the mountain to take revenge in anger, but 2 of them died on the spot. The reason was because of Luya. Now, Yun Xiao had just escaped from the Qilin Cliff, after being suppressed for tens of millions of years. On the other hand, the 10th prince, who had changed his name to Luya, was still carefree for so many years. Today, when the enemy met, their eyes were exceptionally red. Even if she was crushed, even if the entire demon race had to protect the 10th prince, Yun Xiao would fight head-on. She would not rest until she was dead. She has sighed and said, Yun Xiao, I understand your thoughts very well. I also understand that this is your obsession. Your elder brother and 2 younger sisters died directly or indirectly in Yuan's hands. It's understandable that you want to take revenge. It's only right, she has said indifferently. I'll allow you to fight Yuan in 4 hours. However, I have to say something first. Shiha's gaze was cold as she said indifferently, you have to take revenge for your elder brother's death. If my son dies, I have to take revenge too. We've long understood right and wrong. There's no need to say more. However, as parents, we can't accept the tragic death of our beloved son. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. Shiha sighed. Yun Xiao, you have to understand. Yuan was definitely not Yun Zhao's match. Once they fought, it would be a dead end. The Demon Emperor and Demon Empress were well aware of that. What happened back then was indeed Yuan's fault. As the rulers of the demon race, we can't confuse right and wrong. That's why we discussed compensation with senior brother Tongtian many times. We didn't want the 2 families to hurt the harmony. If you insist on killing us, we'll let you kill us. After all, we were in the wrong first. It's only right to repay karma with our lives. However, once Yuan dies, karma will evolve into the grudge between you and us, Yun Xiao. In other words, it's the grudge between Jia School and us demons. We can't let go of your elder brother's revenge, but we definitely can't let go of my son's revenge. She has sighed. Yun Xiao, I'm not trying to scare you. You know that. I'm just stating the truth. We don't want to go to that step. We really don't want to. I also understand your plan. You want to kill yourself immediately after killing Yuan to end the karma. However, Jia School has just returned, and you Yun Xiao, as the first disciple of the outer sect, died in our demon race. It's obvious at a glance that what happens in the future is uncontrollable. She has said earnestly, I also want to plead for my son, but Yun Xiao, you have to consider it. After all, although your second sister, third sister, and elder brother's physical bodies are dead, their essence souls are officials in the heavenly court. As long as they're willing, they can still see each other every day. However, if you and Yuan die in this battle, you'll be completely annihilated. This point is different. That's all. Yun Xiao, Your uncle Master Demon Emperor, and I won't object to your decision. Shiha looked at Yun Xiao and sighed. Fairy Yun Zhao's gaze was cold and unchanged. Just as she was about to speak, Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly jumped out and said loudly, Sister Yun Xiao, I have something to say to you in private. Chapter 1399. Yun Zhao's intention to kill Zhao Gongming was extremely firm. She did not hate others. Even if Zhao Gongming and the two girls had died in Guang Qingzi's hands, Yun Xiao did not hate him so much. At that time, the god role was already halfway through. It had nothing to do with you, Luya. Yet you suddenly appeared at that time. What does it have to do with you? What does the matters of Chan School have to do with you? Who do you have an old relationship with? Who are you friends with? Are you friends? No one can touch you in any aspect. In the end, you suddenly appeared and plotted against my brother for the sake of a sense of existence. Even if you kill him head-on, I won't have any complaints. However, you can't defeat him head-on. So you actually used a scheme. Yun Xiao had too much hatred in her heart. Although the Demon Empress had already explained all the consequences clearly, Yun Xiao understood very well. However, she would never give up. Zhou Xiaoduo leaped up and arrived beside Yun Xiao. He set up a soundproof barrier. Sister Yun Xiao, does the sect master know that you're here today? Master doesn't know. Then you came in the wrong place today. Yes. It's only right to take revenge, Zhou Xiaoduo said patiently. However, isn't it too risky to charge into the Demon Emperor Palace with such fanfare? The Demon Emperor and Demon Empress understand right and wrong. That's why they allowed you to take revenge. What if they don't? If they attack together, how many lives do you have to fill this place? Not to mention, you killed the 10th prince first. It's equivalent to giving others a handle. Wouldn't that be even more uncontrollable? When can't we take revenge? Do we have to kill our way to their headquarters to report? Zhou Xiaoduo did not understand. He felt that Fairy Yun Xiao, who was extremely beautiful, was more or less a little silly. Just like that, he charged over alone. If I don't do that, it'll be difficult to vent my anger. Zhou Xiaoduo was speechless. It was very difficult for him to understand the thoughts of these ancient people. To Yun Xiao, killing Luya in public was the best way to vent his anger and make his thoughts clear. As long as he achieved that goal, it would be worth it even if he died here. However, in the eyes of Zhou Xiaoduo, this method was extremely stupid. Why couldn't they kill him? Just go out and find a random corner to kill him. As long as your hands and feet are clean, who would know that you did it? Did they have to make it so grand? Sister Yun Xiao, I'll give you a suggestion. Please accept it on account that I still have some feelings for your Jie school. Normal channels don't work. Zhou Xiaoduo had to find another way. He had no choice but to force her to repay his kindness. This was because if the current situation continued to develop, the 10th prince, Yuan, would definitely die. Yun Xiao would also die after killing the 10th prince. Zhou Xiaoduo did not care whether Yuan died or not. But if Cloud Sky died here, this matter would be huge. It would definitely lead to an all-out war between the demons and Jie school. That was for sure. Back then, Zhao Gongming's death had caused an irreversible situation. Yun Zhao's position in Jie school was more important than Zhao Gongming's. Moreover, Jie school had just returned. Yun Xiao was someone they could not afford to lose. Yun Xiao frowned slightly and said, Tell me, beat Yuan up here. Even if you cripple his cultivation, it's fine. But don't really kill him. Zhou Xiaoduo said, Let's talk about the future in the future. Now let's vent our anger first. Sister Yun Xiao, what do you think? Zhou Xiaoduo tried his best to persuade her. This. Yun Xiao frowned. Clearly, she was not very interested in such a suggestion. She was also not very willing. This guy has done so many things. If you kill him so easily, wouldn't it be letting him off easy? Zhou Xiaoduo said bewitchingly. Let's cripple him first and slowly deal with him in the future. Every time we deal with him, we'll vent our anger. How good is that? Yun Zhao's eyes flickered slightly. That makes sense. Then let's do that. Yes. Zhou Xiaoduo finally heaved a sigh of relief. Encountering such a stubborn girl, it was really not easy to convince her. Yun Zhao's personality was comparable to that of Zhou Xiaonian's. It was very difficult to change the fact that she had made a decision. Xiaoduo was forcing her to repay him for his kindness, and persuading her with reason and emotion, that he finally persuaded her. Besides, your brother and sister are in the heavenly courts. Although they are on the investiture of the gods and can't roam around the world like before, and their freedom is limited, they are not completely dead. You can still see them at any time, Xiaoduo persuaded. Besides, they were just itinerant cultivators in the past. What merit did they have? But now, who in the world doesn't know them? Who doesn't worship them? Yun Zhao's eyes were filled with thoughts. Although Zhuo Xiaoduo's words were somewhat out of context for Yun Xiao, it was not without reason. Yun Xiao was a reasonable person after all. She thought for a moment. She sighed and said, "After today, I'll make a trip to the heavenly courts." That heavenly courts doesn't seem to have shown up until now. We'll find them eventually, Yun Xiao said quietly. He finally coaxed her. How tiring. It's more tiring than coaxing Yin Yin Cat. Zhuo Xiaoduo wiped his sweat. 4 hours later, in the sky above the Demon Emperor Palace, a crushing battle had unfolded. Yun Xiao held down the 10th prince, Yuan, and beat him until his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. In the end, she punched through the 10th prince's dantian, broke his sea of qi, and shattered his demon core. She even smashed her palm on his head and destroyed his sea of consciousness. Demon Empress Shi trembled all over and gritted her teeth. Her face flushed red and then turned pale. She wanted to soar up and fight several times. But seeing that Yun Xiao did not have the intention to kill, she could only endure it. In the end, the 10th crown prince was beaten, until he was like a pile of mud. He fell unconscious on the high platform. Yun Xiao also floated down. Martial nephew, you crippled Yuan, destroyed her cultivation, and destroyed her foundation. Yun Xiao stood in front of the Demon Emperor, and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "I'll let martial uncle deal with me." The Demon Emperor hesitated for a long time. Finally, he sighed and said, "The grudge ends here. You may go." The Demon Emperor was also angry, but when he thought about how the demon race was already in trouble, and was in the wrong first, it was already good that he could keep his life. In other words, it was lucky that Yun Xiao beat him up. If he was carried back after being beaten up like this outside, this grudge would still be formed. Now, the Demon Emperor could only watch helplessly, but he could not say anything else. Farewell, Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao bowed respectfully, and also bowed to the Demon Empress. I'm sorry, Auntie. The Demon Empress' lips quivered, and her eyes were complicated. Yun Xiao, you won't beat him again in the future, right? Yun Xiao hesitated and said, if he recovers. If we meet again in the future, I might have to beat him again. You're such a simple-minded girl. Can't you say a few words to make me feel better? The Demon Empress sighed and waved her hand. Get lost quickly. Yun Xiao nodded and bowed. She turned and left on a cloud. When she reached the clouds, she stopped and thought carefully. He murmured, what little Duo said makes sense. Now that things have come to this, as long as they don't mess with me in the future, there's nothing wrong with letting this matter go. After all, if they had listened to Master's words and closed the island, there would be nothing that could threaten them. Sigh. I'll find an opportunity to look for them. The white cloud left leisurely. Xiaoduo stayed in the demon race for half a year. Then he returned to the Astral Souls continent. He began to train Li Chenglong and the others with all his might. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding had also gained a lot from their trip to the demon race this time. After they returned, they trained Yu Dongtian and his son, as well as Yun Zhonghu and his wife with all their might. The battle outside was earth-shattering. On the Umno Alliance's side, after the 8 Zuwu returned, they were indeed unwilling to be left out. They quickly joined the battle. Today they would fight this person. Tomorrow they would fight that person. Not long after, all the factions, except for the human race of the Astral Souls, had been beaten up without exception. They had also offended everyone. They had barged into the Spirit Clan to ask for spiritual herbs, and injured many of them. They had deliberately killed many of the demons. The demons were also old opponents. When they met them, they would kill them. As for Jia School, Chan School, and the Western sect, which had nothing to do with them, the medicine Buddha of the Western sect was crippled by the 2 Zuwu. There were also many Vajra guardians. The Zhuwu swept over with red eyes and killed many of them. Saint Jiayin was furious and personally attacked. The Zhuwu immediately retreated. When they retreated, they encountered the goddess of Wudong and fought. The goddess of Wudong escaped with serious injuries. Taoist Duobao chased after her in anger. The Zhuwu had already left. On the way, they met a Taoist. It was perfected Tai. He was just a little bad-mouthed, but he was beaten up by the Zhuwu. Perfected Yu Ding risked his life to save perfected Tai. So the people of Chan School were collectively furious. We didn't provoke the Wu people. What's wrong? Therefore, they began to fight with the Wu people. The flood which felt bitter in her mouth all the time. For so many years, she had been dreaming of saving the Zhuwu. Now she had really done it. And the Zhuwu had all come out. However, the flood which only had one thought now. Whichever faction was more powerful, she would lock them up again. Before they came out, the Wu people had almost no enemies. When they came out, except for the astral souls, everyone else was an enemy. The Umno alliance was fighting in all directions. The flood which felt that she was in a terrible fix, and was mentally and physically exhausted. At first, she was still trying to clean up her mess, but then she realized that she had already fallen into a shit pit. How could she clean it up? Suddenly, the entire world was an enemy. She had no choice but to fight. You really know how to cause trouble. Sometimes, the flood which came to Zhuochanglu to drink, not to drink, but purely to complain. Previously, I could still control Lai Hua and the others, but now, I can't control them. If I hadn't built a large number of heroic soul passes back then, the entire continent would have been destroyed. However, they still enjoy it very much. Every day they say things like the entire world is an enemy. Why should I be afraid? Sigh. This is fucking. Zhuochanglu couldn't do anything about that. He could only say, drink, drink. Now the 8 races were in a chaotic war plus Jie school. The flames of war were everywhere. Only the astral souls was still peaceful. They even slowly recovered some technological communication and could broadcast some news. However, everyone, including the poor people who didn't know martial arts, knew the flames of war were about to burn. This last paradise could not help but be plunged into misery and suffering. Many couples who often quarreled no longer quarreled. Every day, they would watch over each other, talk, play games, and quietly stay at home, enjoying the last moments of peace. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. The battle outside had almost turned the 8 continents into ruins. The flames of war had finally ignited the astral souls. In the end, only one race could survive the clear heavenly tribulation. The human race hadn't moved at all. The outside world had been destroyed, but they hadn't fired a single shot. Wasn't it too easy? The human race would definitely be the enemy in the end. Suddenly, the astral souls became the target of public criticism. It's finally the final moment. I'll take 2 days off to organize my thoughts. Chapter 1400. Dad, I can't figure out why we have to clear the heavenly tribulation. What's the point of clearing the heavenly tribulation? Zhuoxiaoduo was puzzled. The clear sky calamity will easily wipe out a clan. Why can't it maintain the status quo like it is now, where all the clans can coexist and go on expeditions occasionally? Instead, it can stimulate one's fighting spirit and will not dare to slack off. It will also give one the motivation to become stronger. Why must the other clans be wiped out and only one dominant clan is left? Even the so-called eternal protagonist is nothing more than a title. Absolute power leads to absolute corruption. When a certain race becomes dominant, it will only cause the population of that race to expand without limit. There will be no pressure to survive at all. Perhaps in 10,000 years or hundreds of thousands of years, it will be difficult to escape the end of a lack of spiritual energy and resources. If something goes wrong, all living beings will step onto the path of extinction. I really can't understand. Zhuoxiaoduo's words were full of distress. Zhuochanglu sighed and said, how can I not understand this? The human race and the astral souls once went through a period of population expansion. If it weren't for the meteorite shower that killed more than 70% of the human race, and the return of the Tao League and the Umno Alliance, the human race and the astral souls might have gone extinct due to the extreme consumption of resources. However, the current situation is not something that you and I can change. I even suspect that the current situation is not the automatic operation of the heavenly axiom of the ancestral land, but the arrangement of the existence beyond the heavenly axiom. In a world like this, we are strong and have our own means. It is not difficult for us to live forever. However, for the weak, whether they are the human race, the demon race, or other races, it is a disaster. The so-called weakness is the original sin, and it is shown in such a bloody way. Look around, there are so many experts of different races in this world. There are tens of millions of them. Zhuo Zhonglu sighed and said, no matter which one of these powerhouses makes a move, they have the strength to flatten a human city, with a population of 1 million. As for the experts of the human clan, such as your Not Enough Brigade, any one of them can easily wipe out a medium-sized city of the demon clan, or the demon clan. They can even retreat unscathed. It's as easy as a trip. That's undeniable, right? Zhuo Xiaoduo nodded. Let me ask you, when you were slaughtering the demons, did you have the slightest bit of compassion in your hearts? Zhuo Chonglu asked. When you were slaughtering monsters and asuras, were there any times when you didn't have the heart to kill them? Zhuo Xiaoduo shook his head. No. That's it. That's the crux of the problem. Zhuo Chonglu said lightly. Because the education we received since childhood has determined our basic worldview, values, and morals. Therefore, we don't feel that there's anything wrong with this kind of killing. After such a massacre, I even feel that I've contributed to the future of the human race. It's a great sense of accomplishment. People have the same mind, and their hearts share the same principle. Isn't it the same for the experts of the various clans? In the long run, the experts of each generation will only become more and more vicious and cruel to the outsiders. The rhythm and style of this world will only become more and more cruel. Zhuo Chonglu sighed. But what are the sins of living creatures? Is being weak really the original sin? Born without the aptitude for cultivation, can we only be reduced to food hunted and slaughtered in this world? On this point, whether it's the demon clan, or the Azura clan, the root of the problem is the same. We think the demons are cruel, but when we slaughter the cities of the demons, what's the difference in the eyes of the demons? To be fair, when they look at us, they think we're delicious. How is it different from when we cook delicious meat? It's just a difference in the education of the various clans since childhood. There's no need to be harsh. Under such racial differences, it's difficult to unify the thoughts. If there's no restriction in this world, it will continue to be chaotic for a long time. Even if the experts of the various clans join hands and reach a consensus to promote a peaceful situation, it's just a terrifying balance. There's still a hidden danger, and it's just a temporary delay. And this situation is bound to continue until the end of time. Even if there's no cleansing heavenly tribulation, the final outcome will still be the same as the cleansing heavenly tribulation now. A certain clan will be completely strengthened, or they'll exterminate the other clans, or they'll suppress the other clans to establish the absolute right to speak, and achieve a de facto unity. This is the inevitable trend, the inevitable result. It is only at that time that we will be able to completely eradicate the problem of becoming food for other races at any time and place, and become extinct. Zhuo Chonglu let out a long sigh and said, as long as the two clans coexist in this world, this kind of thing will never be avoided. After such a detailed analysis, at least I'm full of admiration for the powerful figure who went beyond the heavenly Tao and directly started the cleansing heavenly tribulation in this world. Only at the initial stage of the return of the clans, the cruel war that's bound to come can be brought to an end as soon as possible and establish a lasting peace for generations to come. Even if there will be wars in the future, there will be the rise and fall of dynasties, and there will be the change of forces. It will only happen among the clans. And no matter how cruel the war between the clans is, there won't be any bloodshed like before. At least in my opinion, once and for all, this is both a crisis and an opportunity for long-term peace and prosperity. In the future, no matter whether it's the monster clan, the demon clan, the Wu people, or the spirit clan left in this world. As long as the unification is achieved, there will be a developed and civilized society in the future. All kinds of systems, laws, inventions, and creations will appear. Zhuo Changlu said, just like the development of the land of astral souls in the past thousands of years. Science, technology, civilization, economy. Our development has proved that although we have developed these things, as long as there is a powerful enemy, everything is meaningless. As long as the enemy comes, the so-called civilization will be gone in a day. Only after the war, after the unification is achieved, and after the redevelopment, can we have a long-term prosperity. Otherwise, no matter how valuable, meaningful, and promising the research results are, they will just be like a flash in the pan, like a bubble in a dream. When a giant demon beast's iron hooves fall, the entire city will be gone. How can we talk about science, technology, civilization, and prosperity? Zhuo Changlu said, maybe in the future, we can develop powerful weapons with only science and technology to destroy those giant demon beasts. But for now it's unrealistic. Of course, the person Zhuo Changlu was talking to was not Zhuo Xiaoduo himself. He looked at the people around him and said earnestly, the person who set this up doesn't care whether the only race that will survive in the future is human or other races. But we have to care about it, and we have to fight for it. We have to do everything we can. Even if we have to sacrifice everything, we have to fight for the chance that human beings will become the only intelligent race in the world in the future and dominate the world. Although the time limit of the protagonist of this world is not eternal, it doesn't matter if it's hundreds of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years. Isn't it good to have that kind of time? Zhuo Changlu sighed. That was true. But in the face of so many opponents, so many legends, to fight for the chance that human beings would be the only winner, that it was more than difficult. They had no confidence at all. If that's the case, there's still one more problem. That is, what about those ultimate experts? Li Chenglong, who had been listening carefully, raised the question first. Those people should be very difficult to kill, or maybe they won't die in battle at all. Everyone nodded. They all knew who Li Chenglong was referring to. Banish them, Zhuo Changlu said. What Chenglong is worried about is a problem that we will only face when we reach the end. During this period, the Demon Emperor, Demon Empress, and I have been discussing this problem all the time. That is, where should those eliminated clans go? Since there are ultimate experts in this world in charge, how can they be completely destroyed? Decline is already the limit. However, the decline of a clan means that the clan's luck is not restored. It's a foregone conclusion that they will become weaker day by day. So in order to ensure that the clan still has room to reproduce, where should they go? Zhuo Changlu said carefully. The conclusion that we have come to, or the relatively feasible method, is to use the Grotto Heaven treasure to carry a small number of the clan's young, and leave the ancestral land to wander the starry sky. The clan's mighty experts will open up a chance of survival for them. Then, they will find a place to settle down. Life and death will depend on luck. However, this ancestral land will not allow them to return. Even then, they will be reduced to the evil clan of the heavenly axiom, because of their luck, and it will be difficult for them to survive. In other words, keep your orthodoxy and spirit, but your sect master, and clan leader will have to leave the ancestral land. After the unification in this world as the ancestral land, there will still be the Western sect, the Jie sect, the Chan sect, the Taoist sect, the Fiend sect, the Spirit sect, the Azura race, the Magi race, and so on. However, there won't be any specific method of inheritance for all of these. They can only keep their orthodoxy and spirit. The real demons, sorcerers, Buddhas, and Taoists, can no longer exist in this world. Even the ultimate experts of each clan will be expelled by the heavenly axiom. Zhuo Changlu smiled faintly. Let this world be dominated by only one clan. Provide the clan with the greatest amount of resources, and let them recover in the shortest time possible. Then they can reproduce and develop. The cycle of yin and yang. This is the true meaning of this clear heavenly tribulation. Everyone murmured slowly. Clear heavenly tribulation. Clear heavenly tribulation. So this is the clear heavenly Dharma. Therefore, all the ancient experts have come out to fight for a chance of victory. They want to settle all their grudges at this stage, because this is the last chance. If they miss this chance, most of the ultimate experts will wander to the boundless starry sky. No one knows where they will settle down in the future. They won't have the chance to settle their grudges. These are things that every saint can see. The so-called clear heavenly tribulation is probably like this. From now on, there will be no more conflicts between clans. Only one clan will rule, and the prosperity will last for a long time. Zuochanglu said slowly, "That's the principle. However, with the strength of human beings, we don't have the confidence to say that we can become the final world dweller." These words made the hearts of everyone present heavy. From now on, there will be no more appreciation for each other, friends from other clans, because everyone will have to fight to the death in the end. Even Xiao Duo's godfather. If in the end, only the Wu people and humans are left to fight, he won't give in. Actually, this clear heavenly tribulation has another purpose, Zuochanglu said. What's the purpose? Liberation. Zuochanglu said deeply, liberation of the saints. The saints are inseparable from the heavenly Tao. However, this clear heavenly tribulation has given the saints a chance to break the shackles. Therefore, the saints are the most excited, because this time, they can break free from the shackles. There's no need to expel them. The saints will leave on their own, because they are finally free, Zuochanglu said with a sarcastic tone. Everyone was silent. Sure enough, there were gains and losses, and there were joys and sorrows. To the saints, the crisis of extinction was freedom. The flames of war are now approaching this side, Zuochanglu said solemnly. You have all cultivated in the Tower of Annihilation for 1,000 years. Your foundation has improved, and you have reached the peak of the human race. So the future of the human race depends on you. Li Chenglong, Long Yusheng, and the others' eyes all lit up. Li Chenglong and the others were not the only ones who were cultivating in the Space Extermination Tower. All the geniuses of the human tribe were cultivating in the Space Extermination Tower to further their studies. At this stage of cultivation, they had basically improved everything that could be improved. There was no room for improvement. As for those that could not be improved, that was naturally the only way. Perhaps in the cruelest battles of life and death, there was still some enlightenment. However, when it came to pure cultivation, it was basically useless. After all, there was still the limitation of one's innate talent. No matter how much one wanted everyone to be like a dragon, it was impossible to make everyone like a dragon in this world. This was the limitation. The majority of cultivators who had reached the Tao integration stage were unable to take another step forward, no matter what they did. Even more people who had reached the ascension stage, or the return to profound realm, were unable to take another step forward. And for such a cultivator with limited talent, even if you forcefully provided them with elixirs and high-level cultivators to help them break through their limits, it would be futile and a waste of resources. After all, even if one broke through the current bottleneck with the help of external forces and went to the next stage, one would still be stuck at a standstill. The innate shackles were always there. If one couldn't pass it once, he wouldn't be able to pass it again. In such a dangerous situation, there was no chance to look for personal opportunities. If one couldn't pass it, there would naturally be others to take over. Whoever could do it would take over. Students from the Hidden Dragon High Martial School, 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 High Martial School. Phoenix City. Qin Fangyang was holding a beautiful little girl in his arms as he strolled around the campus with a warm smile on his face. When the students and teachers saw him, they stopped in their tracks and bowed. Hello, Principal Qin. Hello, hello. The little girl was still struggling, so he put her down on the ground. Then she took off on her two short legs and ran quickly on the ground. Although this little girl was only 4 years old, she was very adorable. and had already begun to show signs of becoming a stunning beauty. She was the youngest daughter of Hu Ruoyun and Li Changjiang Li Qingyue. However, what even Hu Ruoyun and Li Changjiang didn't know was, this little girl was He Yuanyue's reincarnation. As the only person who knew about this matter, Qin Fengyang was all smiles as he looked at the little girl. She was running happily under the sun. When she saw a stray cat, she would tiptoe over clumsily to catch it. The cat ran away, and the little girl would yell and chase after it. How nice! Qin Fengyang was all smiles as he watched Li Qingyue play happily. However, there was a trace of loneliness in the depths of his eyes. In his spatial ring, there was an extremely exquisite jade bottle. What the jade bottle contained was precisely a delicate and beautiful permitha flower. This red spider lily had fallen into Qin Fengyang's hands for 5 years. The light from behind him shone on Li Qingyue's body. She was playing happily under the sun. This was her childhood. It was a carefree period without any worries, responsibilities, or pressure. The time that belonged to her was to play and to be happy. Qin Fengyang stood in the shadows and looked at Li Qingyue under the sun. A smile appeared on his face. It's too late. Too slow. It's too fast. Qin Fengyang's handsome face was in the shadows. When the light fell on his face, it was exceptionally mottled and full of light and shadow. I really want to be with you as you grow up. It's a pity that I don't have time. Deep longing and regret flashed across Qin Fengyang's face. Uncle Qin, come quickly. Li Qingyue called out. Her voice was exceptionally crisp. I'm coming. Qin Fengyang chuckled and quickly walked forward. That night, at Li Changjiang's table, 3 rounds of wine were served. Qin Fengyang took out a piece of paper and placed it on the table. Changjiang, congratulations. From today onwards, you are the principal of Phoenix City's 2nd high school. What does this mean? Li Changjiang was dumbfounded and didn't know what to do. Last night, the minister sent me a message. Qin Fengyang smiled faintly and said, the final battle is about to begin. I need to rush to the front line. From now on, the 2nd high school of Phoenix City will be entrusted to you. Li Changjiang and Hu Ruoyun were stunned when they heard this. The final battle is about to begin? Look after Qingyue. Qin Fengyang smiled and said, we will win. We definitely will. Li Changjiang's eyes flashed with anxiety. He said, but, you've been looking for the reincarnation of the old principal. You haven't found it yet. Just like that. Qin Fengyang smiled bitterly. This is all fate. Let's not look for it. We'll talk about it after the battle. Alas, even if we find it now, what can we do? It's just adding to our troubles. If I'm still alive after the battle. Qin Fengyang forced out an amiable smile. Suddenly, a wave of sadness surged from the bottom of his heart. He paused and tried to restrain himself. He said quietly, if I'm still alive after the battle, we'll talk about it. If I'm dead, then don't mention it. Changjiang, you don't have to say anything. Tonight accompany me. Until we're drunk. After saying this, Qin Fengyang raised his wine cup and drank it in one gulp. In the blink of an eye, it was already past midnight. Li Changjiang, who couldn't hold his liquor, was already drunk and unconscious. Qin Fengyang quietly stood up. All the luggage was already prepared and placed in the space ring. Everything that needed to be arranged had already been arranged. In the past few years, he was only the headmaster in name. Everything was still managed by Li Changjiang, who was in charge of the school's operations. Qin Fengyang was like a guardian deity in the school. If he left now, it wouldn't affect the school's operations at all, and there wouldn't be any chaos either. Just as he opened the door, a voice suddenly sounded. You're leaving now? It was Hu Ruoyun who spoke. Qin Fengyang didn't turn around. He said, yes. I have something to ask you, Hu Ruoyun said softly. Qingyu, are you the reincarnation of the old principal? Qin Fengyang smiled faintly and said firmly, no. The two of them were speechless for a long time. After a long while, Hu Ruoyun handed over a spatial ring. Everything in here is Phoenix City's specialties, tea leaves, snacks, and 2nd high school emblem. There's yours, as well as little duos and Chunglong's. Each item has its own name, and you can hand it over according to the person's name. Teacher Qin, please take care of yourself. Qin Fengyang reached out and took the ring. He laughed. If I don't die, I'll definitely come back and be the principal again. Before he finished speaking, he pushed the door open and was already high up in the sky in a flash. Hu Ruoyan quickly chased after him. In the sky, there was a full moon, and its clear light shone over the entire world. Qin Fengyang stood solemnly in the sky, bathing in the clear light. Take care. Hu Ruoyan waved her hand. In the sky, Qin Fengyang's face was facing Hu Ruoyan from the side. Only a calm smile could be seen, full of peace and indifference. He waved his hand, and his body soared into the sky like a gust of wind. It was as if he had rushed to the moon. Under the clear light of the full moon, Qin Fengyang turned into a gust of wind and rushed away. The moonlight shone on him like water. Wherever he went, the moonlight shone. Hu Ruoyan looked at the bright moon in the sky in a daze. The clear light shone over the mountains and rivers for thousands of miles. Wherever the wind passed, it flowed over the mountains a few times. She suddenly remembered the poem that the old principal wrote back then. A man's ambition in life is to fight in a mighty city, shouldering the responsibility of the country, more than love. After parting today, I'm not drifting to the ends of the world. My heart is like the bright moon, shining on you every night. Qin Fengyang rushed all the way under the moonlight. Suddenly, he reached the peak of Phoenix, turning around and suddenly appeared. He turned around and took a deep look at the lights of Phoenix City behind him. In his heart, there was an endless reluctance. He raised his head and looked at the full moon in the sky. My heart is like the bright moon, shining on you every night. Qianqian, I miss you so much. Qin Fengyang murmured softly. He reached out and took out the red spider lily from his chest. He looked at it for a long time. Finally he sighed. Then he circulated his energy. With a crisp bang, the jade bottle that was as hard as black gold shattered. Along with the red spider lily in the bottle, it turned into powder that filled the sky and scattered all over Phoenix, turning around. This battle, there's no chance of survival. Our love is deep but shallow. There's nothing I can do. Qianqian, I'm leaving. Under the moonlight, Qin Fengyang did not even look back. With a low roar, he tore through space and disappeared in a flash. In the distant space, Duobao pointed his sword at Buddha Ronding's throat from afar and said calmly, Buddha of the past, have you regretted what happened back then? Randing said calmly, the past is the past. The past is over. What's there to regret? In that case, what if I use your corpse to pay the karma of the disciples of Jie School? Since I lost, everything is naturally feasible. There was a hint of loneliness in Ronding's expression as well as worry. The death of a corpse meant that he would never have any hope of becoming a saint in his life. However, it was a fact that he had lost to Duobao. He could only admit it if he did not want to. Beside him, Yun Xiao, Guiling, Wu Dang, Wu Yun, and the others looked happy. Today, they could finally seek justice and come to an end. Back then, Randing was in Chan School and his heart was in the West. Among the disciples of Chan School who had entered the West, Randing was the most loyal. Because of that, he became the Buddha of the past among the three Buddhas. Countless disciples of Jie School died tragically in Randing's hands. Now he had finally settled the karma. Yun Xiao was happy when she saw Randing leave. However, she was still indignant. Why didn't you just kill him? With his cultivation level, it's not worth it to only kill one of his good corpses. Not to mention that he won't vent his anger smoothly enough. He will most likely still cause trouble in this calamity. Duobao handed the 24C calming divine pearls and the treasureful money to Yun Xiao and said, keep these. Then he explained, to us, killing one of his good corpses is already the limit. He is ultimately the past Buddha of the Western sect. If he goes overboard, it will only cause the backlash of the Western sect. However, if we don't kill him, there are still too many people who will not let him off. There is really a lot of karma that Randing has over the years. It's better for others to do it. As soon as the Great Tribulation begins, I'll kill one of the three Buddhas of the Western sect. I'm really worried that I'll bring unexpected variables to Master. This time, the heavenly tribulation will sweep through the various races of the heavenly circuit. I'm more willing to have fewer variables. I don't want to trigger extreme events in the early stages of the heavenly tribulation. Duobao sighed. He was also one of the 3 Buddhas of the Western sect. As a former Buddha, he was almost the existence closest to a saint. Only an existence of such a level could clearly understand how difficult it was to cleanse the sins of Jie school after everything was straightened out. It was precisely because he understood that he was really unwilling to cause any more karma for the Grand Master of Heaven and Jie school. As the eldest senior brother of the Jie school, he had to restrain himself even if he had to end the karma of the past. Apart from having a target, he had to remember to stop. Once he formed a death feud, he would form a death feud with Jie school. Under the heavenly tribulation, he would not rest until he died. To be honest, I want to leave this world with Master, junior brothers, and junior sisters after resolving the karma of the past. We won't cause any more trouble. Think about it. The Penglai Immortal Island, the Golden Ao Island, and the Cloud Immortal Island. The 3 islands would gather and carry the entire Jie school to transcend this world and travel the galaxy. How satisfying would that be? Duobao sighed and said, after so many years, I've been scheming and scheming. It's really too tiring. He looked at the boundless starry sky and sighed. Senior brother has been tired all these years, Yun Xiao. The disciples of the Jie school were all silent. Tears could be seen in their eyes. Yes, it's really too tiring. Yun Xiao held the sea-calming pearl in her hand lovingly. She did not care about the treasure fall coin. That was also a peerless treasure. She lowered her head and said softly, the next time I see Xiao Duo, I'll give him the treasure fall coin and the 24 sea-calming pearls. He should be able to use these treasures. She really did not care about those treasures at all. She did not take them seriously at all. She only felt sad. Not bad. It's a good idea to give it to junior brother Xiao Duo. Duobao smiled warmly and said, it seems that junior sister Yin Xiao has a good impression of this kid. Yin Xiao smiled. It's not just good. Let's not talk about him saving me from the Qilin cliff. Let's just talk about how he tried his best to stop me from killing Luya when I went to the Demon Emperor Palace to take revenge. He avoided a huge karma. Hiss. Duobao took a deep breath and supported his forehead with one hand. He smiled bitterly. You actually went to the Demon Emperor Palace alone. Moreover, you challenged Luya in front of the Demon Emperor. Why didn't you wait? Let's go together. We can take care of each other. It's so risky for you to go alone. Even if the Demon Emperor is unwilling to lower himself and suppress the weak, with just an order from Luya, the demons will attack together. How many lives do you have to return? Duobao reprimanded. Yin Xiao smiled foolishly. At that time, I was blinded by hatred. I really didn't think too much. After meeting Master in the Green Turing Palace, I felt that karma had been settled. The anger that I had suppressed for so many years suddenly surged. I could no longer suppress it. I was so hot-headed that I rushed over. Under the calamity, there will always be dust that will disturb your heart. In the future, you have to think more. You can't be so rash. Duobao lectured. Now the demons are involved. Our Jie school only wants to settle the karma in this calamity. We also have the means to deal with the end of the heavenly tribulation. There's no need to participate too deeply in the heavenly tribulation. However, if we kill the 10th prince, Luya, I'm afraid we will really fall into it. Yun Xiao lowered her head and listened. Let's go. In the next round, let's find Guang Qingzi to settle the score and settle the karma. All right. After finding Guang Qingzi, we'll look for Zhu Lusun. He's even more hateful than Guang Qingzi. As for Xi Hang, Wen Shu and Pu Xian, forget it. However, we have to let them release their enslaved junior brothers. Yes. The disciples of Jie school turned into the wind and left. On the other side, the heavenly lord of primordial beginning, who was riding the 9 dragons Agarwood chariot, arrived at the Green Turing Palace. I want to leave. Are you willing to go with me? The Grand Master of Heaven frowned and said, I still need to settle the karma. I need to delay it for a while. What karma? Can you not roll your eyes? You worry too much. We're all like you. Apart from beating up our brothers, we're sleeping. Really, we don't have to worry about anything. That's because boss hit you. What does it have to do with me? The Grand Master of Heaven snorted and said, Before boss left, he left a note for me to settle the score with you. How can there be no reason? As he spoke, he proudly took out the note. However, the moment he unfolded it, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The primordial beginning sneered at the side. What did boss leave behind? The Grand Master of Heaven's hands trembled. Suddenly, he roared and shattered the note. He shouted sternly, Old man, don't let me see you again. I want to fight you to the death. I won't rest until I die. He was so angry that he had gone mad. He had been a saint for tens of millions of years. But he was actually defeated by a blank note. Yes, it was a blank note. There was not a single word on it. The words "go and find second brother for what happened back then" had disappeared at some point in time. The primordial beginning sneered. I told you that you have no proof. The Grand Master of Heaven was fuming. After so many years, everything had changed. Only the situation of him being the only one who was at a disadvantage had not changed. You're leaving now. Aren't you going to bring your disciples and grand-disciples with you? There are only a few that can be taken away, due to the entanglement of grudges. However, you have to take some away. Otherwise, how can your Tao teachings continue? Of course, I have to take them away. But what about your Jie sect? Duobao wants to connect the 3 islands as one, and use it as a vehicle to travel the galaxy in the future. That's thoughtful. However, the karma you mentioned, is it related to the 3 ancient clans? That's right. Yes, the karma between the Chan sect and Jie sect is nothing more than emotions. After so many years of training, what's there to be unhappy about? The Phoenix clan seems to be scheming against that girl. During this period of time, the Jie sect has received a lot of help from Xiao Duo. The karma is endless. I have to see what the Phoenix clan is up to. Will you take action at the critical moment? You're wrong. It might not be the critical moment. I can take action anytime and anywhere. It's up to you. The primordial beginning did not say anything more. He turned and left. The moment he floated onto the 9 dragons agarwood carriage, he finally stopped. After a long time he sighed. The Grand Master of Heaven. Yes. Once we leave this world, we might not see each other again in the vast starry sky for eternity. Take care of yourself. If you encounter any problems, think about it more. Consult with Duobao and the others. Don't be stubborn. Yes, I'll follow second brother's instructions. The Jie sect claims to teach everyone without discrimination. You've done a good job. However, you've not done enough to teach. Karma of the heavenly Tao, karma and karma. You're on your own. Yes. The primordial beginning nodded, and did not say anything else. Suddenly, a gourd floated out of the 9 dragons agarwood carriage that was slowly leaving the ground. It was a gourd that was covered in purple light, and looked extremely noble. I have a karma bond with that kid, but it's only limited to this gourd. You can pass it to him on my behalf. Back then, I was excited when I saw the gourd and obtained it. However, I owed the gourd vine karma. Today, the karma is clear. We have nothing to do with this world anymore. Tong Tian had just received the gourd when the 9 dragons agarwood carriage disappeared into the vast starry sky. Tong Tian held the gourd in his hand, and stood at the entrance of the green touring palace. He looked lost. He knew that his second senior brother was only here to bid farewell. After parting today, they would never meet again. However, in his heart, he was happy for himself, and for the jade pure and grand pure ones. Because, today, he had truly broken free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao. From now on, he could fly freely in the sky and swim freely in the sea. Second brother, take care. Tong Tian said softly. In the future, we'll definitely meet again. Don't forget that you haven't paid me back what you owe me. The 3 of us are bound together. We won't rest until we die. In the starry sky, the primordial beginning, who was about to reach Mount Kunlun, smiled mysteriously. Silly, you keep repeating the same sentence. Do you think I don't understand? In front of the cave of the Jade Void, Xi Hang, Wen Shu, and Samantha Padra wore their usual Taoist attire. They looked otherworldly and otherworldly. The 9 dragons agarwood carriage stopped. However, the primordial beginning did not come down. He looked at his 3 disciples through the curtain without saying a word. The 3 of them knelt on the ground. Greetings, Master. The primordial beginning still did not say a word. The three of them knelt and kowtowed 9 times, causing the ground to make thumping sounds. From the beginning to the end, the primordial beginning, who was on the agarwood carriage, did not say a word. The curtain fluttered slightly. Today I bid farewell to you, Master. The three of them cried. In the future, the galaxy will be ethereal, and the heavens will look at each other. I'm unfilial if I can't serve you, Master. There was still silence in the agarwood carriage. Master. The three of them knelt for a long time. After a long time, the primordial beginning finally spoke. Go. Be good in the future. Yes, Master. Thank you, Master. Leave Julu-san and Randing behind. Yes. The three of them knelt on the ground and mustered their courage. Master, I want to see you again. Please fulfill my wish, Master. The primordial beginning said leisurely. So what if you see me? So what if I don't see you? After a moment of silence, he said, Go, go, go. The three of them looked sorrowful. However, seeing that the curtain of the agarwood carriage had no intention of fluttering, they knew that their master had made up his mind. They could only kowtow a few more times before standing up. Disciple will take his leave. From now on, morning and evening, I will always wish Master good fortune and peace. The three of them looked back 3 times with every step they took. After a long time, they finally left the Jade Void Palace. The moment the three of them were about to disappear, the primordial beginning appeared in the void, and looked at the 3 figures that had already turned into 3 small black dots. His gaze was exceptionally distant. In the distance, Si Hang and the other 2's bodies suddenly trembled. They stopped abruptly on the cloud and knelt down. Master! They hurriedly looked up. They saw clouds rising in front of them. The entire Kunlun mountain had disappeared. The 3 of them could not help but feel sorrowful as tears fell from their hearts. The ancient Buddha Danjiao walked towards the west miserably. Halfway, he met Julu-san, who rushed over to save him. When the 2 of them met, all sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. They sighed endlessly and headed towards the west earth together. Suddenly, a ball of auspicious clouds in front of them surged. A white-robed Taoist walked slowly from the auspicious clouds. The rest lined up beside him. They were all the immortals of Chan's school. The white-robed Taoist in the lead slowly opened his eyes and looked at the 2 of them. He said calmly, Buddhas, how have you been? When the 2 of them heard that, their expressions changed drastically. Ever since they betrayed Chan's school, the existence in front of them had been their lifelong nightmare. It had never changed. Ever since the day they left, the primordial beginning saint of the Jade Clear lineage had never seen the 2 of them again. After so many years, although he did not say it on the surface, as time passed, the huge rock in his heart became more and more loose. He subconsciously thought that the primordial beginning was magnanimous, and had probably let go of this matter long ago. After all, a saint could not be bothered with such small matters. It was understandable that he never expected that he would encounter the heavenly tribulation of the clear sky here. Moreover, the first sentence he said was such a heart-wrenching sentence. Buddhas, how have you been? In Ronding's ears, those words automatically evolved into another meaning. Are you happy stealing from me? Randing cupped his hands and bowed. Greetings, senior brother. Primordial beginning slowly shook his head. I can't accept it. Ronding's expression turned bitter. Julu-san slowly knelt down. Master. Primordial beginning slowly shook his head. I can't accept it. I can't accept it. Julu-san knelt and did not get up. Primordial beginning said softly, the calamity has arisen. I should abandon this chaotic world and leave. I will not return this time. Before I leave, I have a lingering concern in my heart. I can't escape it. I specially came to end the karma with you. I hope that we will no longer have any disturbances. That's all. That's 666. Chapter 1401. Randang sighed. He should have thought of it. The heavenly tribulation this time was a tribulation for all living beings. However, it was a relief for saints. Saints were with the heavenly Tao. While they were indestructible, they were also restricted by the heavenly Tao. There were naturally many things that could not be done according to their wishes. Now that the heavenly Tao was in chaos, The heavenly tribulation was clearly a special existence that exceeded the ordinary tribulation. To saints, this might be the only chance to escape the restraints of this world. From then on, he would be unrestrained and free. Therefore, not long after the Grand Pure One returned, especially when he sensed that the human race was still protected by someone with great luck, he immediately transcended with his disciples without any reluctance. That was because this opportunity was the only opportunity since the creation of the world, and the saints were guarding the destiny of the various sects. Now primordial beginning was about to leave. However, it was understandable that the primeval Lord of Heaven wanted to get rid of the last bit of karma before he left. However, it was a completely different matter when the person involved in the karma was involved in it. Although primordial beginning spoke tactfully and was not angry at all, the two of them knew very well that the karma between the two of them and the primordial beginning saint was huge. Fellow Taoist, the past is over. Why pursue it? Fellow Taoist, you have already made up your mind. There's no need to continue fighting. If you don't obtain more karma, it won't be beautiful, Randang said in a low voice. It had to be said that although it was an eloquent argument, it was possible for him to stop from the perspective of the past of primordial beginning. If I still want to stay in this world, I should not leave such karma. Primordial beginning said calmly. However, I've said previously that we won't meet again after leaving this time. If I don't settle the matter back then, it's inevitable that time will pass. How can my thoughts be clear? Primordial beginning smiled. In that case, I have to ask the two Buddhas to fulfill my wish. Randang said dejectedly. What do you want? Primordial beginning cupped his hands. The journey to the galaxy is long. I still lack a bright lamp to look after the path ahead. Randang's expression was tragic. However, he extended his hand, and a flame suddenly appeared in his palm. Upon closer inspection, it was a small lamp. The flame flickered weakly, but under the blow of the 9 heavens astral wind, it remained motionless. It seemed to be eternal. How is it? Thank you, Buddha. We will not meet again in the future. Goodbye. Randang left hatefully. Losing half of his natal divine lamp was equivalent to losing 80% of his cultivation base. Without billions of years of hard work, he would not be able to regain it. Primeval Beginning's move was equivalent to breaking his bones. Yuan Shifu looked at Zhu Lusun Buddha again. Guang Qingzi, who was behind him, could not help but take a step forward. Master. Yuan Shi waved his hand to stop him from pleading. He stretched out his hand and grabbed a white light from Zhu Lusun Buddha's body. He said, I'll take one of your 3 flowers and a piece of auspicious cloud to end the karma of the past. Is that okay? Zhu Lusun knelt on the ground and cried out in grief. Master! But there was no reply. When he looked up, all he could see was emptiness. Taoist thunder, and the others felt as if they had been abandoned again. Half a year ago, their ancestors had instructed them to gather the geniuses of Taoism. Furthermore, the more the better. Taoist thunder was overjoyed. He spared no effort in searching the entire Tao League continent, gathering 9,990,000 people. When I woke up this morning, I realized that it was gone. Everything was gone. All of the cave dwellings in the divine mountains had vanished. Even the auspicious clouds in the sky above the Tao Alliance were showing signs of crumbling. Only a few of them remained, drifting about feebly in the air. Where are they? Taoist thunder rushed to the 3 pure halls like a madman. Where did they go? He saw that his other brothers were all standing there in a daze. Facing his question, there was only dead silence in their eyes. Where are they? They're all gone. They've all been taken away. Then what should we do? A letter shone with golden light on the table. Taoist thunder's body trembled. For a moment, he did not dare to open the letter. He only felt desolate and disheartened. This was a farewell letter left by perfected Yu Ding. The content of the letter was unexpected, but it also seemed to be within his expectations. The content of the letter was relatively simple. We're leaving this world's cleansing heavenly tribulation. We're not going to get involved anymore. We're going to find a new place to settle down. This is no longer our paradise. We don't want to fight to the end and be expelled when we lose more than half of our strength. We want to leave with our heads held high and work hard on our own. We've taken the geniuses away, hoping to sow the light of the righteous path in a new place. Although we've left, the ideals and brilliance of Taoism won't die with us. Our orthodoxy won't disappear either. We're not abandoning you. The rest of you only need to surrender to the Astral Souls continent. Then you'll be Astral Souls humans. The people of the Tao League are the descendants of the people under the rule of the ancient 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. We're all the same. There's no difference between races. The only difference is the orthodoxy. Now the last shackle that's holding you back is gone. Return to the Astral Souls human race. You'll become the clear stream of the human race in the Astral Souls. I hope you can live safely and happily, inherit the orthodoxy, and so on and so forth. At the end, there was an apologetic farewell, as well as a large pile of high-grade cultivation resources and pills. However, in Taoist Thunder's eyes, all of this was meaningless. After reading the letter, his heart had already turned to ashes. Previously, many ancestors of the Tao League reappeared in the mortal world and instantly took back the old site of the Tao League continent. Everyone in the Tao League was overjoyed, thinking that they could rise again and dominate the ancestral land. Now everything had changed. How could it be like this? Now that the various races were at war, disputes had already been established. How could he and his brothers handle it with their strength alone? Even if only one demon god from the demon race attacked, it would be enough to crush the current high-end combat power of the Tao League. In such a cruel heavenly tribulation, only experts, powerhouses, pillars of support and high-level combat power that could enter the battlefield now could maintain the situation. What was the use of large amounts of cultivation resources and pills? Could these allow him to improve to the point where he could fight against a demon emperor within a day? If they could, Taoist Thunder would be more than willing to swallow all these resources in one go, even if it meant he would die from overeating. However, this was obviously unrealistic. We stayed here alone and fought for tens of millions of years. After waiting for so long, you finally came back. Then, after you came back, this place became the most extreme battlefield. After a round of crazy battles, the entire continent was devastated. The original population of 100 billion fell to 10 billion. Then, you guys just patted your butts and left, taking so many cultivation seeds with you. Taoist Thunder and the other 4 felt like crying, dejected and disheartened. Overnight, we actually returned to the point where we had no one to rely on. We were even worse than Zhuchanglu. From the beginning to the end, he didn't have anyone to rely on. What kind of backing was he? He just clenched his teeth and fought. But he still managed to create the most peaceful and prosperous era among the various races. Regardless of whether it was just for show or not, at least the Astral Souls humans were really peaceful. No one came to invade them. But what about us? We were always their leaders. We were one level higher than them. We thought we were more than one level higher than them. For so many years we were like that. But now, especially in recent years, how come we suddenly couldn't defeat them? Then, the gap between us grew bigger and bigger. We couldn't even catch up to them anymore. We waited so long for our ancestors to come back. We could finally show off our strength again, but they left again. And they want us to surrender to them and become Astral Souls humans? Become a clear stream of the Astral Souls humans? What the hell? Feng Lei, Shuang, Yu, and Shui stood dumbfounded in the main hall, their hearts filled with confusion. Now at this very moment, they were especially envious of Taoist Hua and Taoist Yin, who died in battle. Although they had died in battle, they had died valiantly and cleanly. They had died without any worries. No, they would be engraved in the hearts of everyone in the Tao League. Even those who were taken away by them would feel the same. On the other hand, they who were still alive had to face this mess. What should we do? Taoist Snow's face was the same color as his name. What should we do? This was also the same word that echoed in the minds of the other 4. Could the Tao League hold on? If the ancestors didn't leave, there would be no doubt that they could hold on. No matter what, they could still struggle at death's door. But now they were gone. They were all gone. Outside there were armies of demons and Azuras. Yes, there were also armies in the Tao League. Fight? They couldn't win. How could they win? Big brother, what should we do? Now, What should we do? Taoist Rain was uneasy, clearly at a loss. As an early-stage grand heavenly realm cultivator, even his voice was a little shaky now. Even his legs were starting to show signs of not being able to stand straight. That how could he not panic when his heart was empty? Taoist thunder drifted out of the hall. Many of the Tao Alliance cultivators below were looking up at him expectantly, hoping that he would give them an explanation. After all, they had all sensed the sudden disappearance of so many divine mountains and immortal abodes. At the foot of the mountain, there were even more people. It was a sea of people. He could see that there was hope and anticipation on everyone's faces. Fight, win, and live. Taoist Thunder's eyes suddenly moistened. I'll go find Old Zwa and discuss the mainland alliance. Taoist Thunder suddenly felt strength in his body again. He said softly, now the two mainlands must merge. The Tao League has been the dominant force for so many years. Suddenly they want to merge. I'm worried that some people can't change their minds. Taoist Rain sighed. He naturally knew that the alliance and merger that Taoist Thunder mentioned was only a pretense. The real meaning was to surrender and seek refuge. Those who can't change their minds will only be beaten up by society. There's still hope for survival if they survive, but those who can't. Taoist Thunder said lightly, if they can't change their minds, then so be it. The way out has been given to them. If they can't grasp it, it's no one's fault. Zhuo Changlu was extremely surprised by Taoist Thunder's visit. His eyeballs almost fell out. Chapter 1402. Zhuo Changlu had only heard that his old friend was in the midst of a fierce battle at the front lines. Why did he come here? After all, both sides were bound to be enemies in the future. Moreover, the other side had ancient mighty figures like the primeval sage, Guangqingzi, and Shijingzi to rely on. It could be said that they were the most likely force to stand at the end of this war. Zhuo Changlu was even a little envious at first. Based on the above knowledge, Zhuo Changlu even wondered if the other party was here to take him in. Zhuo Xiaoduo had a lot of contacts with the prime of Tongtian and many higher-ups of the Jia order. The primeval sage had also consulted him. Although the Tao League was based on the inheritance of Taoism, most of its disciples belonged to the human clan. It was the closest force to the human clan of the astral souls among all the races in the world, and even had the same origin. If the Tao League wanted to take in the human clan of the astral souls, it would not be too far-fetched and unbelievable. At the beginning of the war between the three races, the human clan of the astral souls was almost a vassal of the Tao League. If it were not for the strong rise of Zhuo Changlu and Yu Xingchen, the human clan of the astral souls would have become a vassal of the Tao League, or the three races would have been conquered by the Wu people. However, after hearing the reason, Zhuo Changlu could not help but be stunned, because he acutely sensed that Taoist Lei's intention was the opposite of his prediction. He was not here to take in the surrender, but to surrender. Was this world a little too crazy? The human world was not worth it. You were abandoned again? Zhuo Changlu felt that his worldview had been challenged. What do you mean again? What do you mean again? Taoist Lei was already depressed to the point of death. Now he felt that he had been further attacked. He said sullenly, we were abandoned for the first time. Aha! Zhuo Zhanglu chuckled and tactfully changed the topic. I can't ask about this topic anymore. Let's just let it go. Who asked me to be so kind? It couldn't be helped. The Zhuo family considered themselves to be kind people. Zhuo Xiaoduo was like that, and so was Zhuo Xiaoduo's father. Given the current situation, it's not impossible for the two continents to merge. However, based on the current situation, even if the two continents merge, it might not be able to change anything. Zhuo Changlu's words were vague. However, Taoist Thunder could understand the meaning behind Zhuo Changlu's words. All the top masters of the Tao League have left. Even if you merge, what can you do? Let's not talk about other things. Just these 5 materials are the only high-quality resources that you can take out right now, that we don't want it anymore. Taoist Thunder felt bitterness in his mouth. However, he had to admit that this was the truth and the reality. This time, he suddenly realized that Yu Dongtian and Yun Zhonghu, who were originally one realm lower than him, and didn't even enter his eyes, had not only caught up with him, but had even far surpassed him. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were so strong that he didn't even dare to think about it. He had to look up to them. His current cultivation base was indeed. What do you mean, Brother Zhuo? The past is still vivid in my mind. The Tao League did protect the astral souls of the human race for a long time in the past. The astral souls of the human race have been engraved in their hearts. However, friendship is friendship. The current situation must be considered first. What I mean is that the merging can't be carried out in the name of merging. The priority must be clear. Zhuo Changlu said. If the priority is not clear, there will be chaos in the future command. That kind of merging is better than not merging. Taoist Thunder nodded slowly. The reason Zhuo Changlu gave was very good, but he didn't hide his ambition to directly annex the Tao League. You can come over, but everything after that has to be decided by me. You're only here to seek protection and dependence. You're definitely not collaborators. In other words, from this moment on, you have to accept unified leadership and jurisdiction. These words didn't need to be said out loud. His ambition was as clear as day. However, when he thought of the eager and expectant eyes of the billions of people in the Tao League, those innocent lives. Taoist Thunder's face seemed to have aged tens of thousands of years. Okay, he had clearly been mentally prepared before coming. However, when he really heard it and decided it himself, he still found it hard to accept. At this moment, Yin Zhonghu rushed in like a whirlwind. A war has broken out between the demons and the Wu people and the Western sect. The spirit race has also been involved. Zhuo Zhanglu was taken aback. How far is the battlefield from here? It's still very far from the astral souls, so it won't be affected. However, it's very close to the Tao League. The aftermath of the battle is not small. I'm afraid it will cause considerable losses. Are these people crazy? How dare they act so rashly? Aren't they afraid of angering the primeval saint and causing trouble for them? Immediately help the people of the Tao League to evacuate to the astral souls. Zhuo Changlu gave the order decisively. Now that the two continents had merged, the people of the Tao League were also the people of the astral souls. If there were too few people, the defense line would be too long. It would only become more and more difficult to defend. Although high-level experts could tear space and rush to the rescue, there were only a few people who could do so, and they were all scarce resources. What was the use of a few dozen experts who could tear space in such a huge defense line of thousands of kilometers? In particular, the construction of the Tao League's defense line on the mainland was so fucked up. Therefore, it was inevitable that the Tao League would give up on the mainland. Okay. Taoist Thunder, who understood the situation, did not waste time. He simply agreed, stood up, and hurried back to pass the order. Master, what's going on? Is the Tao League coming over? I thought he came over today to accept surrender? Yin Zhonghu said. It had to be said that Yin Zhonghu was indeed Zhuo Changlu's top disciple. The two of them had the same idea. Yes, it's just as you think. So those old ancestors came and left. Yin Zhonghu sneered. At the end of the day, it was us old natives who shouldered everything. Those ancestor experts have always been like this. Zhuo Changlu smiled faintly. If they really had the heart to fight to the death, they would have done it back then. Why would they wait until now? So what if the clear sky calamity starts? It can't stop them at all. Naturally, they would seek advantages and avoid disadvantages as soon as possible. Besides, if the saints wait until the clear sky calamity ends, they won't be able to leave. If that's the case, why come back? If they don't come back, how would they know that this is the only chance for freedom? You're right, Master. But you have to be careful during this period. What do you mean, Master? There are too many strong enemies. You are unstable. Have you forgotten Xiao Duo's repeated reminders? Zhuo Xiaoduo had reminded Zhuo Changlu of this many times. The fact that Yin Zhonghu's life was in danger was still like a sharp knife hanging over his head. During this period of time, if you encounter any problems, remember to deal with them together with Yu Dongtian. It's not necessarily a bad habit to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. In this aspect, Dongtian is much better than you. When it comes to shirking the responsibility, you have to be behind 3 times. Yes, I understand. It didn't take long. The ground shook a little. After 10 minutes, Yu Dongtian rushed over. The big move is here. The Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin races, the Azura race, and the Demon race are attacking the Astral Souls continent from 5 directions. The Ancestral Dragon is personally attacking and destroying the Heroic Soul Pass in the west. What? Everyone stood up in shock. Everyone was at White Mountain now, and the Heroic Soul Pass had the geographical advantage. After the ancestral land was reunited, the Heroic Soul Pass's sturdiness had increased exponentially. Unless one was a top-notch almighty in this world, it would be impossible to shake it. It had been stable during this period of time, and it had become a blind spot for the attack. Which side are they? Where's military advisor Li? Zhuo Chenglu immediately summoned Li Qinglong. During this period of time, Li Qinglong was sent by Zhuo Chenglu to command the allied forces when he had nothing to do. Although the Astral Souls continent didn't suffer a large-scale attack, Li Qinglong secretly commanded the troops and did a lot of sneaky things. Moreover, Li Qinglong analyzed the situation of the entire 9 continents and made all the decisions under his comprehensive consideration. Every decision he made was extremely correct. This kind of big-picture view made the 4 marshals sigh at their inferiority. After all, everyone was originally in charge of their own affairs, and they could control the area under their jurisdiction accurately. However, if the area suddenly increased by a few hundred times, it was really beyond their power. Moreover, the 4 marshals' knowledge of high-end combat power was not as accurate as Li Qinglong's. Therefore, although this kid wasn't officially appointed, the actual position of military advisor of the Allied forces was already on his head. In the beginning, the marshals would slap him on the back of his head and laugh at him. However, as military advisor Li's cultivation base increased, he could now suppress the marshals of the 4 marshals. Therefore, the 4 marshals were now well-behaved. They no longer called him little brat, but formally called him military advisor Li. Li Qinglong came in and squatted in front of the huge map that was more than 10 meters long like a monkey. He was deep in thought. The battle reports from all sides came in one after another. Zhuo Chenglu, Qin Mo, Sword King, Yu Dongtian and his son, the 4 marshals of the 4 marshals, Zhuo Xiaoduo and the rest of the troops were all gathered in the hall. Every one of them looked anxious. The front line had already started fighting. Every minute, every second people were dying. A large number of people were dying. How could they not be anxious? However, no matter how anxious they were, they had to wait until they finished analyzing the overall situation before they could take any concrete action. War was not a game that could be rushed into on a whim. Acting blindly would not help. If they saw military advisor Li squatting in front of the map like this, they would have kicked him a few times. However, no one dared to do so today. Everyone looked very serious. Zhuo Xiaoduo sat far away with his legs crossed. Young masters were never worried about such things. He didn't even want to get involved. Just tell me what you want to do after you've discussed it. It's very obvious that this wave of attacks was premeditated. They want to eliminate the Star Soul human race first. Li Qinglong studied for a while. He squatted on the ground and didn't turn his head. He said in a heavy voice, "This is a battle of life and death. It's no secret that our main force is concentrated on Mount Whitehead. The enemy's attack this time was specifically designed to target our weakness. Dragon Clan, Qilin Clan, Phoenix Clan, Ashura Clan, Demon Clan. A total of 5 clans attacked us from 10 directions. They caught us off guard and attacked us from the front and back. We are overwhelmed. Now some of the heroic soul passes have been lost. They are so decisive. Obviously, they want to destroy the astral souls in one battle. Then, they will talk about the rest of the clans. But I find it strange. Why did the Wu people, the Demon Clan, and the Western religious sect fight at this time? And it's a battle of life and death?" Li Qinglong frowned. "This is really puzzling. They just started fighting, and there is a fatal crisis here. What does it mean? Is there any other connection? Either all the clans are colluding, or the Wu people and the Demon Clan are being schemed against. What is it?" Li Qinglong frowned. "The enemies have shown up. We can just send troops. However, the 3 clans are the biggest uncertainty. Chapter 1403. What's the difference? Bei Gonghao was confused. Seeing that Li Qinglong was silent for a long time, he couldn't help but get impatient. Shut up, Dongfang Zhenyang yelled at Bei Gonghao. If the Wu people and the demon race were just being set up, then this is the safest development for us. Because we don't have to worry about new enemies. If the three races know the current situation of the battle, but choose to stand by and watch, or even deliberately create the illusion that they are busy fighting with their lives on the line, then we have to be wary of new enemies. The difference between the two races is like heaven and earth. I really wonder how you became the commander of the north borderline. What do you know? After a while, Li Qinglong thoughtfully drew 10 directions, a big oval circle in each direction. He frowned and said, Uncle Zhua, what do you think? Zhua Changlu was also an expert in the art of war. He immediately understood what Li Qinglong meant. The Flood Witch's relationship, the Wu people's relationship with Zhu Wu, the relationship with the demon race, the friendship with the demon king and demon queen. Extrapolate from the beginning to the end and estimate what was going on. Was it possible that they were also part of the trap? Zhua Changlu frowned and said, the Wu people probably wouldn't be part of this conspiracy. Whether it was the Flood Witch or the Zhu Wu, they wouldn't be so calculative. But it's hard to say for the demon race and the Western tribe. Zhua Changlu thought about the demon king Jun and the demon queen Shihi's faces and couldn't make up his mind. Were they part of the conspiracy? According to Zhua Zhanglu's judgment, he was willing to believe in the demon emperor and the demon empress. However, in this situation where the life and death of a race was at stake, how could he be so sure that they weren't involved? Just because he was friends with them? Just because he felt that they wouldn't do such a thing? Even if Zhua Changlu was the one who made the judgment, he still couldn't get everyone's agreement. However, Zhua Changlu didn't think they were part of the conspiracy. The demon emperor Dong Huang, the 8 great Zhu Wu, and the flood did not seem like people who would scheme behind the scenes. Especially since they had already signed a contract with the demon emperor. If they really had no other choice, they would arrange for some of their descendants to enter Zhua Xiaodua's space in the Tower of Annihilation. Zhua Changlu pondered for a full 3 minutes before he said, 40 to 60. 40% they participated. 60% they didn't. Li Qinglong stared at the map and nodded slowly. Since the probability is more than 60%, then we'll just assume that they didn't participate. Now is not the time. We can only take a gamble. Li Qinglong spoke very decisively and resolutely. The decision was made in an instant, and we headed in that direction. The 4 great commanders and several almighty experts who knew how to fight were immediately full of praise. This kind of decisiveness was the most important factor of a commander. He dared to take a gamble. He stood up and pointed at the map. Look, these 6 routes are the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin army. They jump directly above the clouds. I reckon that their goal is to invade our land. Their intention is naturally to disintegrate us from the inside. If they take a step back, they can also form a pincer attack with the enemy outside. The ability of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin army can be said to be a great weapon against the heroic Soul Pass. These 2 routes, one on the left and one on the right, are heading straight for Shangjing. There's no doubt about it. The 2 routes on the left should be taking the Dao League's border and going straight for our astral souls. They're coordinating with the 2 routes that are attacking Shangjing, and they're also reinforcements from behind. The 2 routes jump down from the sky, and the 2 routes fight steadily and surely to attract our attention to the greatest extent. This method of marching and planning is very unusual. It seems that these guys haven't been idle while we've been working hard. At least for now. The distribution of our main forces has almost been perfectly avoided by them using the current route of attack. And these 2 routes are coming in from the flanks. Their final landing point is still faintly discernible, and they're heading straight for Shangjing. It seems that the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin army are determined to bloom in the center of the astral souls. They're determined to destroy us. On the other hand, the Azura army's 2 routes disembarked from the inland sea. Along the way, the rivers of blood surged into the sky. It's exactly the devouring route of the Azura Blood Sea's attack. It can maximize the benefits of their race's characteristics and maximize their combat power. As for the demon race's 2 routes, there's nothing to write home about. They're still attacking fiercely and advancing triumphantly. They're relying on the sharpness of their troops and their tyrannical strength. They're considered the side that's relatively easy to deal with. All in all, this strategy of ambushing from all sides has been set up. The strategic intention of blooming in the center is obvious. Li Chenglong stood in front of the map and said, "If Shangjing, the center, is breached, our collapse will continue to spread from the center of the astral souls to the surrounding areas. Coupled with the tyrannical destructive power of the 10 Directions army, we won't have the chance to turn the situation around." The current situation. Li Chenglong pointed to the south and said, "The demon race's 2 routes are the furthest away from each other. It seems to be easier to deal with them. However, it's no longer the same as before. We have to consider the possibility of the demon ancestor attacking us. In the face of the demon ancestor's attack, only Uncle Zhua and Auntie Zhua are competent enough to resist him. The troops that can be sent to the 2 of you can choose any one of the 4 armies." Long Yuxing and Wan Lixio stood up without a word and followed Zhua Changlu and his wife out. The battle was fierce and dangerous, so there was no time to be long-winded. As for Zhua Zhonglu and Wu Yuding, it was the same no matter which side they were on. Zhua Changlu chose Bei Gonghao's northern army without any hesitation and immediately gave the order to set off. The formation of the army, and so on, were all omitted. The most important thing was to intercept the demon race's army as soon as possible and stop their momentum. Everything else was inconsequential. When Zhua Changlu and his wife brought along high-level cultivators who had the ability to tear space and set off at full speed, Bei Gonghao's orders rang out like a string of cannons. Less than 100 breaths after Zhua Changlu and his wife set off, the Northern Army's vanguard rushed out of the camp. Then the Second Army, the Third Army, and the Fourth Army. The command was strict, and the order was carried out in an orderly manner. In the tent, Li Chenglong pointed in the direction of the inland sea and said, "Zhua, the Azura army's overall strength seems to be the weakest among the invading armies, but the blood god of the Nether River Patriarch has the greatest impact on killing living beings. If we are late by 1 step, the battle will be out of control, and the consequences will be even more unimaginable. You sister-in-law, Gao Qiao and Jin Piapiao should go together. The army that can be allocated to you is half of the Southern Army. I believe that sister-in-law's power of icebound heaven and earth can restrain the blood sea's devouring power. Yes, I understand. There's one more thing. I hope that you can annihilate the Azura army as soon as possible, and then immediately return to Shangjing. Don't think that everything is fine just because you've taken care of the Azura army. The battle situation here in Shangjing is not optimistic. The 2 of you attacking the Azura army together is using the strong to suppress the weak. It's also the only advantage we have in the current battle situation. I understand. We will finish off the Azura army as soon as possible and rush to Shangjing's rescue." Zhua Xiaoduo said no more and went out with Zhua Xiaonian, Gao Qiao, and Zhen Piapiao to gather the troops. In less than 100 breaths, many high-level cultivators had gathered. With the 3 women in the lead, they tore through the void together with Juyan and Xiao. On the other hand, Zhua Xiaoduo was gathering the remaining half of the army as the second wave. This was because he wanted to put this group of people into the Tower of Annihilation and fly there lightly. When the Tower of Annihilation was opened, everyone would recharge their energy before immediately coming out to kill the enemy. The benefits of this were not limited to just a little bit. Apart from allowing the Southern Army to recharge their energy and even have time to cultivate, the marching speed of the Southern Army was much faster than the Southern Army moving on their own. Just as Li Chenglong had said, the astral souls were besieged by the 5 forces and ambushed from all sides. Zhua Xiaoduo's side was the only side that had the advantage. They had to maximize the effect of his side. Only then would the astral souls have a chance of winning. Left and right heavenly kings, Senior Qin Sha swordsman, Yu Moyan, Dugianer Li Zhangming, Yu Yener, Pai Bao. Divide the troops into 4 groups. Lead the Western Army and the Eastern Army to fight the Dragon Army and the Phoenix Army. We must not lose Shangjing. As you command. Emperor, together with Lord Changtian. The remaining half of the Southern Army, Marshal Nanjungqian, Xiang Chong, Xiang Bing, Zhan Xuejuan, and me, to fight the Qilin. If the people from the Tao League return, they will guard the door from the Tao League to the astral souls. Everyone move out. Once the order was given, everyone responded and moved out immediately. Qin Fangyang rushed all the way. Just as he was about to turn in the direction of White Mountain, he suddenly heard an earth-shattering explosion. Boom! That was Qin Fangyang was surprised. He immediately turned around and soared high into the sky. He focused his energy on his eyes and looked over. He saw that in the far north, there was a faint huge wave of air that shot into the sky. The place where the wave of air came from was too far away. Even though Qin Fangyang had reached the peak of the grand heavenly realm, he could not see it clearly. He could only rely on his divine sense and soul waves to identify it. Although he did not know what was going on, Qin Fangyang was very sure that something had happened. Even though it was so far away, he could still feel such a violent tremor. Did this not mean that something big had happened? Such a tremor, such a distance. With such a commotion, if it was a local city, the entire city would be finished. Under normal circumstances, there should not be such a tremor. Could it be that an enemy has invaded? Qin Fangyang pondered for a moment. He turned around decisively and sped in that direction. It was best if it was not a war there. Although it would delay his journey, he would still be at ease if he rushed over to take a look. He could still make it to the front line in time. If something had really happened, perhaps no one would have arrived earlier than him. His unexpected rescue could still recover some of the losses in the first moment. Chapter 1404. With that in mind, Qin Fangyang turned around and tore through space, speeding up his journey. Shangjing City. It was the first time the Astral Souls continent had a population of about 200 million. As the largest city in the Astral Souls continent, its defense had always been extremely strong, especially the protective shield of Shangjing City, which was personally reinforced by Zhou Changlu and the others. It was extremely sturdy, even when the demon race returned last time. With the might of the entire continent, the number of collapsed buildings in Shangjing City was the least in the entire world. Not only was there the royal family, but more importantly, almost all the high-ranking generals' families were gathered in Shangjing City. Firstly, it was safe. Secondly, it was easy to manage. Thirdly, there were many opportunities here. Fourthly, it was a way to reassure the higher-ups that although there were very few traitors in this kind of race war, there was always 1 in 10,000. For various reasons, Shangjing, the political center, naturally became the economic center, the financial center, the gathering center, and the residential center. Qin Fangyang tried his best and tore through space a few times. Although he had not reached his destination, he knew what was going on. Soldiers were rising from all directions. Their target was Shangjing. Shangjing was dangerous. Moreover, from the looks of it, the restrictions on the 4 directions of the heroic soul pass had been broken. Qin Fangyang did not hesitate and immediately turned around. As he got closer to Shangjing, the pressure Qin Fangyang felt became stronger and stronger. That was the enormous pressure of countless chaos grand heavenly immortals gathered together. It made Qin Fangyang feel as if the sky in front of him had completely collapsed. Qin Fangyang felt despair as he ran. He even felt as if he was stepping into the gates of hell. How many fucking experts are here? How many grand heavenly immortals are there? Others definitely can't make it at this time. Does this mean that I have to shoulder all of this myself? Then I'm rushing to my death by running forward step by step. Qin Fangyang was very sad, but he vaguely felt a little heroic. This did not mean that there were no experts in Shangjing City. Naturally, there were experts, but there was not a single grand heavenly immortal who was at the peak level. At this moment of life and death, how could a peak expert stay behind? Even a few experts of the royal family had already arrived at the front line. Therefore, Qin Fangyang was very clear that as long as he could pass through this battlefield, he would be the only peak expert. These words were very uplifting, but when he thought about how he would have to face tens of thousands of enemies alone, that no matter how brave Qin Fangyang was, he still felt his legs go soft. He wasn't worried that he wouldn't be able to block it, nor was he worried that he wouldn't be able to win, because he knew very well that it was simply impossible. However, he was worried that after he died in battle, what would happen to Shangjing if the minister and the others couldn't arrive in time? What about the billions of astral souls? Qin Fengyang felt the cold wind blowing on his face, his eyes filled with determination. His feet also became faster and faster. He clearly knows that he's courting death this time, but he's still running faster and faster. Qin Fengyang said self-deprecatingly, "I'm also a freaking talent. Is there any other way? To stall for time while delaying the enemy?" He arrived in Shangjing in a flash. Qin Fengyang was dumbfounded. So it wasn't 4 enemies but 6. He had miscalculated 2 paths. Fortunately, these 6 enemies had a common flaw. None of them had reached Shangjing, although they were only a few hundred miles away. But if they hadn't arrived, they hadn't arrived. In these 6 directions, there were no less than 30 heroic soul passes in each direction. Peak experts could bypass them, but it was impossible for a large group of people to do so. Therefore, they had to destroy those heroic soul passes first. Only then could the large group of people drive straight in. And the meteor shower in the astral souls for thousands of years had created a strange phenomenon. There was no one in the suburbs. All the humans were in the big cities. Therefore, there were almost no casualties among humans or ordinary residents. However, the 6 armies had arrived. Qin Fengyang directly let out a long roar and flew above the protective shield of Shangjing. He only felt a sense of heroism in his heart, a sense of excitement. He understood that 1,800,000 of his comrades had already perished, and their Tao vanishing. Each brave soul mountain pass was guarded by 10,000 regular soldiers. However, these enemies had already marched straight into Shangjing. In other words, there were at least 180 soldiers inside the brave soul mountain pass in those 6 directions. That was to say, at least 1,800,000 iron-blooded warriors must have all died in battle. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to pass. 8 million heroic souls. Qin Fengyang looked up to the sky and roared. 8 million good men. Alarms were already sounding in Shangjing. Countless people were about to fly up. Qin Fengyang stood in the sky and shouted, "Speed up the reinforcement of the protective shield. The enemy is too strong. Use all means, no matter the cost, reinforce the shield. Even at the cost of your life and soul, you are definitely not a match for this group of enemies. Use all means to reinforce the shield. This is the only way to stall for time. Delay for 1 more second is 1 more second. Wait for the minister to come back. I am Qin Fengyang. I am the vanguard official who has returned from the front line. I ask you to reinforce the shield with all your might. The minister is already on his way with the army. We only need to buy a few minutes. Do you hear me?" Qin Fengyang's roar shook the entire Shangjing. His voice was firm and determined. Countless martial artists below were instinctively convinced, because they heard the determination to die in the voice of the person above. As long as I, Qin Fengyang, am alive, no enemy can enter Shangjing. Think of a way to reinforce the shield first. Think of all means, no matter the cost. The order of the military was immediately passed down. All capable martial artists reinforced the shield at all costs. Shangjing was too big. The shield of such a huge city was the strongest. But to reinforce it temporarily, it was also the most expensive. Martial artists below the God-reigning realm were not qualified to participate. If martial artists of the God-reigning and profound realm wanted to reinforce the shield, they would probably have to use their own life and soul as the price. Martial artists of the sky realm and above quickly gathered and flew in all directions of the city. The military was coordinating. The experts of the various ministries and commissions rushed to different posts under the leadership of their respective leaders. Shangjing. In Zhuo Xiaoyan's small courtyard. Before the accident happened, Wang Lingyun was lying on a recliner and drinking tea. Her body was covered in age spots. These few years, although Zhuo Xiaoduo had given her good things to nourish her body at all costs. But Wang Lingyun also clearly knew that her life had come to an end. The startling sword was in the scabbard. The The scabbard was on Wang Lingyun's lap. Since that day, the startling sword had never left the scabbard. There was no sound at all. It was as if the sword was already dead. When the crazy vibration came, the moment the house began to rustle and dust began to fall, Wang Lingyun looked at everything in shock. He felt as if something great had happened. His heart suddenly contracted. The atmosphere of the coming storm, and the collapse of the sky and earth, had already enveloped Shangjing. Along with the alarm, when the alarm of the enemy attack continuously sounded in every corner of Shangjing, that Wang Lingyun knew that this time, Shangjing had really encountered a life and death crisis. He gently stroked the hilt of the startling sword and muttered, "Grandfather, it seems that little Hong can't be saved. Little Hong, are you willing to accompany me and be the last bloom of our lives?" The startling sword seemed to have sensed something, and suddenly let out a sword hum. In an instant, 3 inches out of the scabbard, cold light shot out in all directions. Suddenly, the small courtyard was filled with murderous intent. Everyone knew that the startling sword was the sword of the god of war back then. It was also the Wang family's heirloom and amulet. But only Zhuo Changlu, his wife, and Wang Lingyun knew the real startling sword. Why was it an amulet? There was a reason for that. It wasn't just because the startling sword had a sword spirit. That was because Wang Feihong had left behind the startling sword. It was similar to a soul imprint, the power of will. Wang Feihong had practiced the sword all his life, and was sincere to the sword. He had devoted his life's energy, all his effort, and all his spirit to his sword Dao, his sword. Other than the sword, there was nothing else. That was why he could use the sword to reach the peak. When he advanced to the primordial chaos realm, the startling sword had a sword spirit. After a long period of battle, as his comprehension of the sword became deeper and deeper, his sword Dao will also became purer and purer. By the time he shocked the world in that battle, he was already a zenith heaven, and his sword Dao will had already accumulated a lot in the startling sword. Although he had died, he had sealed his will of the sword Dao within the startling sword after a desperate battle. He left the startling sword behind. This was also the reason why the startling sword was not damaged at all when Wang Feihong self-destructed. It could be said that this was the essence of Wang Feihong's life. Although it didn't have any consciousness. However, it was still indestructible. However, this sword Dao could only be released once. And there was a huge price to pay. Zhuo Changlu wasn't willing to let the last trace of his brother disappear. Moreover, Wang Feihong's last relic was left for his grandson Wang Lingyun. Therefore, Zhuo Changlu sent this sword back to the Wang family. He handed it to Wang Lingyun. Wang Lingyun's aptitude was not good, and could not absorb this sword Dao will. After that, the Wang family didn't have any other outstanding figures, so Wang Lingyun didn't mention this secret again. After all, if the ancestor's sword Dao will fell into the hands of an unfilial descendant, it would be the greatest insult to Wang Lingyun's grandfather. It would be the greatest discredit to the name of the god of war, and the reputation of the hero. Until today, Wang Lingyun suddenly felt that perhaps today was the day. A powerful enemy is attacking. Shangjing is in danger. The imperial emperor is far away. He can't return in time. But my current energy is not enough to fully unleash the ancestor's sword Dao will. I only have one chance to attack. I can't waste it. Wang Lingyun muttered to the Jinghong sword. My body is already weak. It's difficult for me to even walk normally, let alone kill the enemy. Little Hong, everything depends on you. Take me to kill the enemy, okay? The Jinghong sword left its sheath and stood in the air. Cold light flashed. I hope you can help me, Wang Lingyun pleaded. After all, this is the last battle for you and me. Clang, clang, clang. The Jinghong sword let out 3 sonorous sword sounds. Wang Lingyun laughed. Very good, very good. Then, he channeled his energy and used all his strength to absorb and devour without care. All the precious medicine left by Zhuo Xiaoduo, useful and useless, were swallowed into his stomach. Then his body slowly expanded. However, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was still rushing into his body crazily. With a boom, his dantian shattered, but the spiritual energy was still pouring in. This was a form of suicide. It wasn't even self-destruction. At a certain point, the entire body would disintegrate. There was no power to kill the enemy. He would treat his body as a rubber ball and blow it with all his might. In the end, the rubber ball would crack and leak, and it would be over. No one would do that. But now Wang Lingyun did so. Following the intake of spiritual aura, his internal organs were already slowly being destroyed. His face had also changed shape. His entire body had become more than 10 times fatter. At the moment when he was at his fattest, Wang Feihong used the last of his strength to grab the Jinghong sword and muttered, "Little Hong, let's go kill the enemy." The tip of the sword slowly pierced into his chest and into his heart. Wang Lingyun's body instantly stiffened. His eyes looked at the void with a smile. His eyes were actually filled with pride. My body is no longer able to go on the battlefield to kill the enemy, but my soul can. Under the baptism of the ancestors' will of Sword Tao, using my soul to control the sword, and using my bloodline to unleash the will of Sword Tao is more suitable and stronger than anyone else controlling the will of Sword Tao. Although I can only use it once. Although after using it once, I, Wang Lingyun, will no longer exist in this world. The Jinghong sword and the ancestors' will of Sword Tao will no longer exist in this world. But I, Wang Lingyun, have not been humiliated by my grandfather. I have not let down the name of the grandson of the war god. The whistling spiritual energy carried Wang Lingyun's blood and soul, and rushed crazily into the Jinghong sword. The Jinghong sword was trembling slightly. The blood-colored light on the sword body became denser and denser. A white-clothed phantom slowly appeared above the sword body. His features were clear, and it was Wang Lingyun's appearance. The illusory figure became clearer and clearer. There was a smile on his face, and his face was handsome. Just like the war god who was dressed as white as snow, he had once again appeared in the world. The Jinghong sword hummed incessantly. The killing intent became heavier and heavier. The sword energy moved horizontally and vertically. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 1405. On the other side, the couples Wu Changlu and Wu Yuding led Long Yusheng, Wan Lixiu and thousands of other experts to block the path of the demon army. There were no arguments, no accusations, and no impassioned speeches. The moment the two sides met, they started to fight at close quarters. It was the most extreme battle. A fierce battle that could not be held back started instantly. It was out of control. The moment they came into contact, there were already waves of blood. Blood flowed like a river. This was a common saying, but it was so real at this moment. The Sky Patrol saber that Zhuo Changlu had recast had turned into a 10,000-meter line of defense. With a slash of the saber, tens of thousands of demons were cut into two halves. Their smelly blood splattered on the ground like torrential rain. As for the agreement that a superior expert should not attack the weak, Zhuo Changlu did not care at all. If he showed mercy now, it would only lead to the destruction of the demon army and the destruction of the human race. Instead of that, it was better for him to attack and kill as many demons as possible. At this moment, there was only murderous intent in his heart. So far, the devil race had successively broken through 4 cities on their way here, and those 4 cities had been reduced to infernal purgatory. There was not a single living person left. Now that he had cut the bodies of the demons, he could even see some living human bodies from the intestines that had spilled out. There were even complete babies that had not been digested in time. When Zhuo Zhanglu and the others saw this, they were filled with rage and indignation. Even though he had heard of the demon horde wreaking havoc on the Tao Alliance continent and feasting on the people of the Tao Alliance, those were merely rumors. Even if he had seen them, he had only caught a glimpse of them from afar. He had never seen them up close. Now that he had seen them up close, he could only feel heart-wrenching pain. They kept their mouths shut and gritted their teeth. They swung their swords, drew their sabers, and fought in silence. There was no need for any words. Because there was no need. The only way to deal with this kind of evil beast was to kill it. He poured all of his true qi and yuan qi into the weapons in his hands. His fists, palms, fingers, and claws were all used to kill the demon horde as much as possible. Kill them all. Kill them all. There were less than 8,000 experts gathered here. But they had built an insurmountable mountain, a millstone of flesh and blood. In the face of the raging demon army that covered the mountains and plains, they did not retreat a single step. They would not allow a single demon to break through their defensive line. He even killed the countless demons one by one, killing them with his blades, crushing their flesh with his fists, and crushing their bodies with his swords. Suddenly, a magnificent sword light flashed at an extreme speed. Long Yuxing flew up on his sword, and where the sword light passed, it was like a huge green dragon. The azure dragon was covered in dazzling sword light. It shook its head and wagged its tail. It was no less than 10,000 feet long. It charged straight into the devil race army, wreaking havoc back and forth. Everywhere it passed, there were mountains of corpses, seas of blood and severed limbs. The hearts of the azure dragon 7 stars, who were watching the battle from the sky, trembled at the same time. They only felt surging emotions, unable to control themselves. This attack was clearly the famous ultimate move of their eldest brother, the Azure Dragon Lord. Azure Dragon soars in the sky. Furthermore, the power displayed by this young human in front of them was even stronger than their eldest brother, the Azure Dragon Lord, when he was at his peak. Let's fight once. Moonfox of Heart's eyes were filled with tears. For the Azure Dragon Divine Sword, let's fight once. I want to fight with the Azure Dragon Divine Sword one more time. Alright. The 7 of them flew down together. They took out all of their weapons and unleashed all of their ultimate moves, each of them showing off their best moves. In an instant, the body of the Azure Dragon that was swimming in the sky suddenly exploded with 7 lights, shining brightly. It was as if 7 stars were shining on the Azure Dragon's body. It caused the Azure Dragon's lethality to increase by more than 3 times. Yes, it had really increased by more than 3 times out of nowhere. This was because the current Azure Dragon soars in the sky was a complete and strengthened version. The Azure Dragon in the sky was accompanied by the 7 stars. The combination of the 7 stars was even better than the Azure Dragon Lord's Azure Dragon soars in the sky. Right now, the Azure Dragon soars in the sky was like a huge ship that would never sink. It charged left and right amidst the densely packed demon army, wreaking havoc as it wantonly moved back and forth majestically. The Azure Dragon descended, looking down on the world with disdain. Dragon roars resounded, suppressing the 4 extremes. As the Azure Dragon 7 stars fought, they wholeheartedly felt this familiar atmosphere that they had not felt for a long time. Each of them was overwhelmed with emotions, and tears streamed down their faces. They forgot about everything else as they fought fiercely. They did their best to unleash their highest combat strength, coordinating with every move and transformation of the Azure Dragon Divine Sword. Their hearts were filled with hot blood, and they only wished for this moment to last forever. Heaven has 4 extremes. Azure Dragon suppresses the east. Eldest brother. We can fight together with the Azure Dragon Divine Sword again. Do you see? Do you miss us? Azure Dragon in the sky. 7 stars will accompany us forever. Fortune and misfortune together. Life and death together. Azure Dragon 7 stars. Our hearts are eternal. We are the Azure Dragon 7 stars. Eldest brother, we are here to fight with you. The 7 of them roared and fought, increasing Long Yuxing's endurance by a lot. It also allowed the Azure Dragon soars the sky to last for a long time. Everywhere it passed, the Devil Army's lives were reaped in large batches. When the battle reached its climax, it was also time for the Azure Dragon Divine Sword to perform the final move, Sovereign's Descent. The Azure Dragon 7 stars roared again, and actually revealed their huge bodies, causing the might of Sovereign's Descent to increase again. As far as the eye could see, the killing circle suddenly expanded by 10 times. Dense and disorderly screams sounded like a tsunami, rising and falling in an endless stream. Even Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were shocked by this unexpected scene. And right at this moment, a ray of light suddenly flashed in the distant void. Everywhere it passed, it was as if the blue sky had turned dark, no longer clear. An extremely fierce murderous aura suddenly enveloped the battlefield. Even with Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding's current cultivation, they could not help but feel as if their hearts were suddenly grabbed by a cruel hand. That was the feeling of impending death. That was the God-slaying spear. The God-slaying spear had finally appeared on the battlefield. Indeed, the demon ancestor Rahu was the backbone of this attack. The god-slaying spear was as swift as ever, arriving in a flash. Its target was actually Long Yusheng, who was wreaking havoc in the devil army. The god-slaying spear's tip was aimed at the huge azure dragon that was still swaying freely. One spear to nail the dragon, one strike to kill. Long Yusheng instinctively felt a life and death crisis approaching. Not far away, Wanli Xiu roared and rushed over with all her might. But the god-slaying spear's momentum was too fast and too fierce. It was like a killing lightning that pierced through heaven and earth, descending into the sky in the blink of an eye. The so-called distance, space, and time were all in its eyes. Right at this moment. Ha 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 ha. A wild laugh sounded. Suddenly, from the distant sky, 7 dazzling starlight hung down. At the critical moment, before the god-slaying spear's rapid attack, they poured into the 7 stars of the azure dragon. The 7 stars of the azure dragon instantly absorbed the majestic starlight and bathed in it. The brilliant light actually resisted the god-slaying spear for a short period of time, although the starlight was rapidly collapsing under the god-slaying spear's power. But in this short moment, it was able to hold on. But everyone understood. The god-slaying spear easily broke through the starlight. Once it broke through, it would be the arrival of death. The god-slaying spear circled and soared into the sky. From above it charged again. This time, it was even faster, even more ferocious. To have such a battle in this life, I have no regrets even if I die. Big brother, you've already gone. And we've also accompanied the sacred sword on its journey. Now we brothers are here to accompany you. Without the azure dragon, the 7 stars of the azure dragon are just lonely souls and wild ghosts. What joy is there in life? Big brother. Little brother is here. Little sister is here. 7 streaks of starlight rose into the air and collided with the god-slaying spear's attack without any care. It was clearly 7 directions, but they converged into a streak of starlight in the air, as if they were flowing together with the constellations in the sky, and resolutely collided with the god-slaying spear. Seeing the convergence of the 7 stars, the end of the road, the extreme collision with the god-slaying spear was already unavoidable. With a dragon's roar, it forcibly pierced into it. Long Yusheng gritted his teeth and used all his strength to ride the sword. The azure dragon soared into the sky and instantly became neck and neck with the 7 stars of the azure dragon. The towering azure dragon once again showed the might of a sovereign descending to the world, charging with determination. The 7 stars of the azure dragon are of the same breath and branch, sharing weal and woe, and following in life and death. I, Long Yusheng, am fortunate to have obtained the imperial azure dragon sacred sword. Now I'll accompany you, the 7 stars dragon roaming, ruling the 4 extremes side by side, fighting to the death. The azure dragon whistled away. The 7 stars of the azure dragon laughed. You're not our big brother. Thank you. You didn't disgrace the azure dragon's sacred sword. But this time, we want to reunite with our big brother. The 7 stars of the azure dragon actually sped up under such extreme speed. It was a charge that burned the soul. It surpassed the azure dragon that had similarly reached extreme speed. This was godly speed. The convergence of the 7 stars that had reached godly speed was the first to collide with the god-slaying spear. We understand what you want to do. You want to complete our final journey. We appreciate it. We're grateful and gratified, but we don't need it. Even if we die, we'll be the ones looking for our big brother. It has nothing to do with you. Your responsibility is to pass on our big brother's legacy. We can die, but you can't. We have nothing left to live for. If we're willing to die, we'll die. But you want to live on with the azure dragon's sacred sword. Boom! The 7 stars of the azure dragon collided with the god-slaying spear with unparalleled might. At the same time, they used all kinds of extreme attacks on the god-slaying spear for the final time. No matter how the god-slaying spear's unparalleled sharpness pierced through the bodies of the 7 of them, turning them into candied haws, they still laughed. Let's go and find our big brother. Roar. With a boom, the 7 of them self-detonated at the same time. All of their vitality, souls, and everything else were put into this self-detonation. Chapter 1406. Under the unprecedentedly violent explosion, a huge no-man's land was opened up in the middle of the battlefield. It also cut off the battlefield. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Buzz! The god-slaying spear trembled, somersaulted, and flew back. The shaft of the spear buzzed like a windmill in the air. Long Yusheng, who was nearby, was also sent flying by the impact of the explosion. Fortunately, when the 7 stars of Azure Dragon self-destructed, they had already prepared a backup plan. The force placed here was all pushing force, and there was no explosive impact force. Therefore, Long Yusheng was sent flying 7,000 meters away by the huge force, but he was not injured. With this unprecedented explosion, the huge battle line from east to west was cut off. The 7 stars of Azure Dragon had completely disappeared. Wanli Xiao screamed and killed the demons in front of her. She rushed to Long Yusheng like a madwoman and asked incoherently, "How are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. I'm fine." Long Yusheng stood up and took a deep breath. "The 7 stars of Azure Dragon are gone. They asked for mercy and got it. Don't be too sad." Zuochanglu flew over and checked Long Yusheng. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, "This is a battlefield. There are sacrifices everywhere. If you have any regrets, leave them for after the battle. What we need to do now is to kill the enemy." Before he finished speaking, he had already rushed forward with his saber. The grand saber light flashed again, crisscrossing and sweeping away the enemy. In the distance, the huge figure of the demon ancestor suddenly appeared. He waved his hand, and the god-slaying spear, which was trembling and shrieking in the air, flew back to his palm. It was still buzzing and trembling, as if it was complaining about its grievances. The god-slaying spear had suffered from the explosion of the 7 stars. Although it was an ultimate Khanate spirit treasure, it was still severely injured. It was an unprecedented injury. Who were the 7 stars of Azure Dragon? 7 peak primordial chaos experts, including a peak early-stage zenith heavenly realm expert, burned all of their vitality, true essence, and souls in a converging manner. They even collectively pierced through the body of the god-slaying spear and detonated themselves. It could be said to be the most extreme way of self-destruction. Moreover, it was at the closest distance, and there was no room for escape. Such a cruel experience. Even in the god-slaying spear's life of slaughter, this was the first time it had suffered such a fate. Black chi emanated from the demon ancestor's hand. Boundless and pure demonic chi was injected into the god-slaying spear to help it recover. With a sneer, he took a step forward and arrived in front of Zuochanglu. Then he thrust out his spear. "Die!" Zuochanglu did not say a word as he chopped down with his saber. This was the second time the two had fought. On that day, the demon race continent had attacked the 3 continents. The 3 continents had prepared well and were ready to attack. They had planned to inflict heavy losses on the demon race army. But because of the demon ancestor's brazen attack, he had severely injured the number 1 expert of the Astral Souls continent, Zuochanglu. Even the Sky Patrol saber had been destroyed by the spear. Now that they had fought for the second time, even if Zuochanglu's cultivation had improved greatly and was like a different person from before, would he be able to deal with the demon ancestor, who was one of the strongest in the immemorial age? Fearing that her husband would not be able to withstand the enemy, Wu Yuding followed with her sword. Long Yusheng and Wanli Xiao stood on the left and right respectively. The dragon sword and moon soul stood upright. The 4 of them joined forces to fight the demon ancestor. Although the god-slaying spear had been healed by the demonic chi, it was impossible for it to be fully recovered. As a result, the demon ancestor Raha's combat power had been reduced somewhat. The battle between the 5 of them caused the entire space to shatter. The demon ancestor Rahu was extremely shocked. These 4 ants could actually block the great demon ancestor. The god-slaying spear increased its strength and could not help but bring out its true abilities. Boom boom boom. The space cracked and shattered. Zuochanglu and Wu Yuding were like the mainstays. They did not seek to achieve anything, but they did not seek to make any mistakes. They were 70% defensive and 30% offensive. With the help of Long Yusheng and Wanli Xiao, they actually managed to hold off the demon ancestor Rahu. That's Zhuo Xiaoyan led Gao Qiaoer, Zhen Piapiao, Xiao, and Zhu Yan to tear the space apart. Not long after, they arrived at the shore of the inland sea. As far as the eye could see, the Ashura tribe had broken through the defensive line of the inland sea. By now, the entire inland sea had transformed into a river of blood, with towering waves of blood surging out of the surface of the sea and into the land below. Everywhere it passed, mountains collapsed and cities fell. It was a scene of desolation and endless collapse. Although there was a heroic soul pass on the other side, it could not withstand the continuous impact of the tsunami, not to mention the crazy impact of the infinite blood god's sun. After a short period of resistance, the heroic soul pass gradually showed signs of corrosion. Then, the entire pass collapsed as the monstrous blood waves surged toward them. Countless people struggled and screamed in the blood sea. However, after a few ups and downs, they disappeared without a trace. They had all turned into eerie white bones that floated in the blood river. After another tumble, even the white bones disappeared. As it devoured more and more living beings, the blood sea grew bigger and bigger. The blood waves surged. They were already tens of thousands of feet deep. They were ferocious and insufferably arrogant. Zhuo Xiaoyan took the lead and rushed to the front. When she saw the incoming blood sea, she flew for 3,000 miles. Her white clothes and white skirt flew across the sky. Everywhere he passed, an extremely cold aura followed him and engulfed the entire space. The raging blood sea, which was originally baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, not only did the waves drop by tens of thousands of feet, but it also froze. Little Dove had already fully matured and transformed into a sentient life form. It was a high-grade ice soul. As it spat out a mouthful of air, 1,000 miles of ice and rivers of blood appeared in another direction. Li Chenglong's deployment of troops was the result of careful consideration. With Zhuo Xiaoyan's tyrannical ice attribute, she could be said to be a natural enemy of the Azura Blood Sea. With the arrival of Zhuo Xiaoyan, the front of the raging blood sea instantly turned into ice sculptures and could no longer do anything. The only question was how long Zhuo Xiaoyan could last. The blood sea that had turned into ice sculptures did not really disappear. It still existed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless blood god suns jumped out of the frozen blood sea. Behind them, many Azura warriors that were frozen in the blood sea appeared in unison. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that Zhuo Xiaoyan's ice flames were fully activated for the first time. The sea of blood that had already been frozen completely turned into a field of ice and fire. It was still frozen, still an ice sculpture, but it was burning with ice flames. It was an irreversible special burning, an unextinguishable mysterious burning. Even if the blood sea rushed up from behind, it could only provide fuel for the ice flames. In the blink of an eye, millions of blood god sons and Azura warriors were all infected by the ice flames, and their death was already a foregone conclusion. Along with a dense shout, a tall figure with a head full of messy hair descended upon the mortal realm like a demon from hell. It was the Nether River Patriarch. Looking at the freezing ice flames that spread across the land and soared into the sky, his pupils suddenly shrank. He roared furiously, "Why is the primordial phoenix ice flame here?" The Phoenix clan was clearly an alliance this time. How could something like this happen? Could it be that the Phoenix clan has other plans and wants to scheme against me? He hurriedly flew forward and instantly recognized Zhuo Xiaoyan, the girl who could sit down easily in the Purple Cloud Palace. But why did this girl have the Phoenix ice flame? That was the Phoenix clan's greatest trump card. At the same time, another shadow appeared in the sky. A huge, grotesquely shaped, ugly monkey suddenly appeared. It opened its mouth, and an endless stream of gurgling yellow, turbid gas came out of its mouth. Was that poison? Poison surged out of the scarlet ape's mouth like a tide, pouring over the wildly burning ice flames. Suddenly, a boundless amount of poisonous fog slowly rose. The poisonous fog seemed to be under the command of the Azura army, and it swept towards the Azura army. The endless stench that filled the air was like a public toilet that had been left unattended after being exposed to the sun for 2 days after a summer storm. With hundreds of rotting rats and turtles soaking in it, that even the Azura tribe could not help vomiting when they smelled that stench. A biological weapon. An absolute biological weapon. And yet, the true lethality of this biological weapon was about to be revealed, that as far as the eye could see, everyone who came into contact with this stench began to rot away. In the blink of an eye. It really was just the blink of an eye. Every Azura tribe on the land had decayed. The sky-filling ice flames that touched the bodies of the Azura blood gods' scions had sealed their doom. But it could still buy them some time. On the other hand, the appearance of this new poisonous fog greatly hastened the death of the Blood Sea Army. Even so, the Nether River Patriarch did not care about the massive casualties of the Blood Sea Army. His true focus was that the Nether River Patriarch's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets as he roared in rage. Scarlet Ape? Screw your mother. Why are you here? What the hell? What the hell? The moment the words left his mouth, his heart began to beat like a drum. The Nether River Patriarch's expression changed. What the hell? Why was the Scarlet Ape here? And in a direct confrontation? That fellow's bad luck. Sigh, there was no need to consider that. Just look at what that fellow had done. The Azura tribe had lost at least hundreds of thousands. And that was just the beginning. By the time this battle was over, there would be more than 1 million casualties, wouldn't there? Could it be that this wasn't bad luck? The Scarlet Ape continued to spray poison, completely ignoring the Nether River Patriarch. Although he knew the Nether River Patriarch, he was not close. Now that they were on opposite sides and the war was dangerous, he did not have the time to pay attention to the Nether River Patriarch. It was more important to continue killing the enemy. Zua Xiaonian Jimpia Piao, Gao Qiao Erin Xiao. All covered their noses and looked miserable. Their faces contorted as they killed the enemy. That fellow. So disgusting. I'm dying from the stench. It's good that you're killing the enemy, but it stinks too much. The antidote you gave us before could only detoxify the poison, but it could not block the stench. The Nether River Patriarch yelled. That's the Scarlet Ape. That's the Scarlet Ape. Retreat for now. Why is that unlucky thing here? Fuck. Retreat. Don't charge forward, Blood River. Hold your ground first. How many recommendation votes? Chapter 1407. The Nether River Patriarch made a prompt decision and immediately ordered the army to retreat. The Blood River reversed. The Azura higher-ups immediately took action and cut off the front. They drew a 1,000-foot-wide isolation section because they were very clearly aware that it was impossible to save those within the icy flames. On the other hand, if Zua Xiaonian were to use the 3,000 miles of ice again and freeze a portion of the Azura army here, then the icy flames would immediately spread over here. That would be a greater loss. Ever since the Azura race was born, they were most afraid of the Phoenix race. They were even more afraid of them than the Western sect. Although the Western sect had long had the wishful thinking of expiating the Azura race, and had even expiated a considerable number of them, they had not really annihilated the Azura race. However, the Phoenix race's Nirvana heavenly flame, and the primordial Phoenix's ice flames were the natural nemesis of the Azura race. The Phoenix race was proud and pure by nature, and did not tolerate the filth of the world. It was precisely for this reason that the Azura race had been chased to the underground Blood River by the Phoenix race during the ancient Dragon Han First Tribulation. It was rare for them to see the light of day. In this joint battle, the Azura race and the Phoenix race were on the same side as the Azura race for the first time. They could at least roam freely and look down on everyone. However, they had not fought for long and encountered the ice flames. Moreover, it was an exceptionally pure and thick ice flame. How could the Nether River Patriarch and the higher-ups of the Azura race not be stunned and puzzled? Wasn't this fucking cheating them? Not to mention encountering Zhu Yan, that just the psychological impact alone was enough to make their hearts beat faster. It was more than 100 pounds. It was simply like thunder, and their hearts and livers were trembling. The higher-ups all looked at the Nether River Patriarch and waited for him to make a decision. The Nether River Patriarch gritted his teeth and said, "The arrow is already on the bow. We have to release it. All those above the primordial chaos realm will fight. Kill those little fellows first. Go." Destroy the enemy at all costs. Especially Zhu Yan. We must kill it. And this little girl in white. She will be the key to this battle. Kill her with all your might. The battle only paused for a short while before it started again. Although Zhuo Xiaoyan had fewer people, they were all top masters. The most important thing was that Zhuo Xiaoyan knew what to do. They only needed to hold on for at least half an hour to at most an hour. And Zhuo Xiaoduo would be able to lead the army to reinforce them. With his top-grade equipment and the help of Gao Qiao, and the others, it shouldn't be a big problem. With this in mind, Zhuo Xiaoyan went all out without hesitation. The many treasures that Duo Bao and the others had given him, as thanks, were unleashed one after another like raindrops. With this application, Zhuo Xiaoyan was surprised to find that the power of these magical treasures was beyond her expectations. All kinds of earth, fire, water, wind, raging flames, and ice appeared descending from the sky. A hole suddenly collapsed, and the Azura people who fell were besieged by the yellow-scarved strongmen. Dozens of mountains suddenly came crashing down from the other side. She casually pulled out a fan and waved it wildly. Several Azura masters who had just rushed in front of her had their souls blown away by the wind from the fan. As expected, Nether River Patriarch's attention was focused on Zhuo Xiaoyan. Taking advantage of the fact that there were many of them, he attacked and hit Zhuo Xiaoyan's shoulder. Just when he was relieved that he had succeeded, he didn't expect the immortal slaying sword Qi to rush out from the spot where he was hit and pierce a hole in his stomach. Tongtian, immortal slaying sword. Nether River was stunned by this sudden change. He held his stomach and retreated thousands of feet, his eyeballs almost falling out. What kind of existence is this little girl? How is she not only related to the Phoenix clan, but also the Tongtian sect leader? If he didn't know how powerful she was and retreat a little slower, he would have been beheaded by Zhuo Xiaoyan. Nether River knew that he had underestimated the little girl in front of him. He couldn't help but observe her attentively. He found that while Zhuo Xiaoyan was attacking, she was also absorbing the cold air of the natural ice crystals to replenish herself. Together with Xiao Duo, they were wantonly freezing all the creatures in the Blood Sea. Zhuo Xiaoyan was now at the pinnacle of sage to be. Without a large number of natural ice crystals, other things could not replenish her instantaneously and maintain her peak combat power. With such cultivation strength, she would not be at a disadvantage even if she were to fight Nether River head-on. She would go all out, smashing her mystic treasures, shouting loudly, and fighting with infinite violence. What shocked Nether River even more was her own defense. To be frank, even if the 4 disciples of the Jie sect attacked at the same time, Zhuo Xiaoyan could stand still for a few minutes. She was so strong, and had so many protective mystic treasures, that even the 6 sages would be jealous of her. How could Nether River Patriarch not be shocked when she had such equipment and supplies? Ice seal. Ice flame. Burn. Explode. Zhuo Xiaoyan's expression was cold. She shouted softly, but her hands did not slow down at all. Naturally, a large number of creatures fell in front of her. Xiao Duo fought side by side with Zhu Yin wielding the Huahuang sword. Yan Shirsi was darting back and forth. Not only was he killing, but he was also absorbing the ori of death. More and more demonic flames were rising. At first glance, it was not much different from the real god-slaying spear. The more Nether River Patriarch watched, the more terrified he felt. There was also anger and heartache. His hundreds of millions of troops were blocked here just like that? But he felt worse and worse. Why did he encounter Zhu Yan? Why did he encounter the ice flame? And, where did the demon ancestors' god-slaying spear come from? Even if it was not the real god-slaying spear, it had to be a clone. The Patriarch could not be wrong. It was too unusual for so many strange things to happen together. Could this be a trap set by the dragons, phoenixes, Qilins and demons for the Azura tribe? They did not want to destroy the continent of astral souls. Instead, they wanted to destroy the Azura tribe, right? He knew that nothing good would happen when he saw Zhu Yan, but he did not expect to be so unlucky. It was a disaster. Could it be that Zhu Yan's reappearance after so many years had increased the disaster level? Could it be that it could shake the fate and lifeline of an entire tribe in just a moment? That the situation in Shangjing was different. At least, it was very different from Li Chenglong's prediction. The primordial god clan's flying ability was very powerful. They were much faster than the others. In the sky above Shangjing, one person, one sword, and one sword, stood 3,000 meters above the protective shield of Shangjing. Although he was alone, the sword light that reached the heavens, and the earth shone brightly in all directions. The sword light was piercingly cold, and the sword light shot in all directions. That person's green robe fluttered, and he stood with his hands behind his back. His long sword was still in its scabbard on his back. The sword was not out of its scabbard, but the sword light shone through the heavens and the earth. This person himself was a sharp sword that could shake the heavens. The sword light that flowed around his body shone in all directions. It was extremely sharp and brilliant. Looking from afar, he was like a sun that emitted light and heat, illuminating the universe and illuminating the heavens. The only difference was that the sun used light, and he used sword energy. The 6 masters of the dragon tribe, the phoenix tribe, and the Qilin tribe had arrived in the sky above Shangjing. When they saw this person, they could not help but feel shocked. The sword light flowed around his body. He used his physical body to resist the strong wind. His clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like an immortal who could ride the wind and fly away at any time. It was as if nothing in the world was in his eyes, and nothing in the world was in his heart. However, all the masters of the 3 clans could feel it very clearly. This person's state of mind was completely different from his appearance. He was a person who was sure to die. Yes, he was determined to die in this battle. Today he would fight to the death here. The moment they saw this person, the masters of the 3 clans came to a consensus. If this person did not die, Shangjing could not be attacked. This person would do his best to protect this city. He would use his life to protect this city, and he would use his soul to protect this city from falling. This feeling was ridiculous and nonsensical. How could one person protect a super metropolis with more than 200 million people? How could one person protect it? The 3 clans had launched a large-scale attack, and the total number exceeded hundreds of millions. Even if he could grow 3 heads and 6 arms, or even split himself into 100, he would still not be able to protect a city if he surrounded Shangjing City from all directions, not to mention drowning the city with sheer numbers. Even if he could grow 3 heads and 6 arms, or even split himself into hundreds, he would still not be able to protect a city. However, when their eyes met the person standing there, especially when they met that calm and indifferent gaze, that kind of wordless aura clearly told you everything. I'm still here. All of you don't move. If you move, kill. I will keep my word. If you don't believe me, you can try. Use your lives to try. With a vigorous dragon roar, a giant dragon of 10,000 feet suddenly appeared above the 9 heavens. It circled around and stood in the void with endless power. The giant dragon then turned into an old man in gray clothes and landed lightly. He stood on the other side of the swordsman and looked at him from afar. The old man praised in a deep voice. What courage! What determination! What momentum! Human, what is your name? Standing here. Do you want to have a life and death battle with the 3 clans? Qin Fangyang looked into the distance and did not look at the old man in front of him. He said indifferently, only one person in charge of the 3 clans came. Why should I talk to you? His words were full of arrogance. It could be said that he was very impolite and did not have a demeanor. However, the old man did not take it to heart. Instead, his eyes lit up and he praised. Good boy, you want to arm wrestle with us? Not only arm wrestle, but there will also be bloodshed. Qin Fangyang sneered and said, Why? Are you the only one from the 3 clans? The leaders of the other 2 clans do not dare to show up? Haha, among the ancient god clans, the dragon clan is really good. They are indeed the leader of the 3 legendary clans. As for the other 2, Ancestral Gragon laughed and felt very comforted. He especially felt that the boy in front of him had a good eye. He knew that the dragon clan was good. What was more rare was that he knew that the dragon clan was the leader of the 3 clans since ancient times. It was simply too delightful. Nonsense. Suddenly, a Qilin roar and a phoenix cry shook the sky. Chapter 1408. Kid, who do you think doesn't dare? What about the leaders of the other two clans? How is the Dragon Clan the leader of the three legendary clans? Kid, make yourself clear. A Qilin and a Phoenix came out from the left and right respectively, their faces full of anger. Being looked down upon, he could no longer tolerate this. You still want to praise the Dragon Clan without any bottom line? What's so good about the Dragon Clan? How are they better than us? The three clans have been equally famous since ancient times. Although each clan wanted to suppress the other two clans and become the leader of the three clans, no clan had ever been able to take the lead. It was a fact that the three clans had always been on par with each other. How could this kid say that the Dragon Clan was the leader of the three clans? The feathers on the wings of all the phoenixes stood up, and countless Qilins stared at Qin Fangyang with their eyes almost popping out. What do you mean? Is this kid's wishful thinking? Or is it the common knowledge of all the astral souls? There's a big difference between the two. Yes, the title of the leader of the three clans had always been a knot in the hearts of the three clans. It was also the most controversial issue among the three clans. Very few people dared to touch on it. Once they did, they would offend the other two clans and be killed easily. This was also one of the ancient taboos that the prime of Tong Tian, the Demon Emperor, and the Demon Empress had mentioned to Zhou Xiaoduo. Qin Fangyang himself didn't know about this taboo, but this method of sowing discord and killing 3 soldiers with 2 peaches was a necessary tactic for a general. Of course, Qin Fangyang's original intention was to stall for time. What he lacked the most now was time. He was determined to use his own life as the price to stall for time and fight for time for reinforcements. This method seemed wrong and right, but in fact, it wasn't, because this method itself was an open conspiracy. If he was facing Azura or the Demon Clan, Qin Fangyang might not even have a chance to speak before the enemy started attacking. But for the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the Qilin Clan, this method had a good chance of working. The Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the Qilin Clan were the real ancient divine clans. And such clans had a common characteristic since ancient times, or rather, a flaw, and that was pride. The Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan had no enmity with each other, but they were too proud. Which book is it? It was written by a very handsome author. These words were never said casually. The pride of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin races was imprinted in their bones, deep into their DNA. If they were alone, it might not be so easy to deal with. But when the 3 races were together, if you praised one and belittled the other 2, it would not only cause a physical reaction, but also a chemical reaction. They would really explode. The truth was just as Qin Fangyang had predicted, and it was even better than his initial estimation. The leader of the Phoenix Clan was the primordial phoenix, while the leader of the Kirin Clan was an old man. After transforming into his human form, his face was covered in a thick beard. If it weren't for the fact that he had seen his tongue and teeth when he opened his mouth to speak in anger, he wouldn't have been able to find his mouth. Kid, what did you just say? Who is the leader of the 3 clans? Speak clearly. What do you mean by the legendary leader of the 3 clans? Who approved it? Who verified it? Is it your Star Soul human clan's wishful thinking and blindly following others? What nonsense! Only the dragon race is a good thing? What was so good about it? How is it good? The ancestral Gragon frowned. Now is not the time to quarrel. Calm down. The primordial phoenix and the Qilin were about to roar. However, in just an instant, his emotions immediately calmed down. Although he suppressed his calmness, he was not so agitated that he was about to explode. After that, the primordial phoenix gazed at Qin Fangyang and said indifferently, "Kid, you're quite the schemer. You intend to use flattering words to sow discord between our 3 races. However, at the bottom of it all, your objective is to buy time. Could it be that you really think we're unable to see through your shallow tricks? So what if you speak with certainty?" Qin Fangyang said indifferently, "I'm just stalling for time. You don't have to listen to me. However, what does it have to do with you if I'm willing to speak on my own?" When the Qilin saw that Qin Fangyang had insulted the primordial phoenix again, he could not help but chuckle and say, "Qin Fangyang, I'll remember you. You're really bold and powerful. However, If you think that you can stop our three races with just your mouth, you're gravely mistaken. How much time can you stall for with your own strength? It's just a flick of your finger. Now that the armies of the three races have gathered, our attack on the human race's capital is imperative. I met you because I saw that you had some courage and backbone, so I specially came to meet you. I wanted you to display your eloquence and sharp tongue. However, no matter how eloquent you are, how can it help the overall situation? Qin Fangyang roared with laughter. Since I'm about to collapse with a flick of my finger, why aren't you moving? You say that I'm eloquent, but who knows if you're afraid of me and don't dare to act rashly. Who knows, you might even die in my hands. When they heard this, the three fellows snorted in disdain. Lose our lives in your hands. Ha ha ha. There's no one else here now. It's a fact that your army is pressing on. I wonder if the kings of the three races dare to fight me alone. Qin Fangyang flicked his sword with his finger, and a sword hum that was like the roar of a dragon and the cry of a phoenix resounded through the sky. Do you dare? Do you have the guts? Or do you need the three of you to join forces before you dare to fight? The three people opposite him roared with laughter. Facing an army of billions alone with one sword, and still provoking and challenging calmly. This king likes this spirit. The ancestral Dragon laughed and said, Qin Fangyang, you don't have to provoke me. What we the ancient god race admire the most are heroes. We also like heroes the most. When we saw you standing here, we knew that you wanted to risk your life to protect others. What you want is only this battle. The primordial phoenix also smiled faintly. Therefore, the moment we saw your appearance and felt your spirit, we wanted to fulfill your fighting spirit. Fulfill your wish to risk your life to save your people, the will to stall for time, the belief to fight with your life. There have never been many heroes in the world. We are also happy to see a hero in front of us, so we won't be stingy with fulfilling your wish. Since ancient times, what our three races admire the most is the righteous spirit of the human world. It's because you didn't have to die. With your cultivation, you could have lived a long and peaceful life by simply hiding. You didn't come out to fight to the death because you were forced to a desperate situation. Instead, you took the initiative to fight for your beliefs. We respect you. That's why we're willing to be provoked by you. We'll let you get what you want and die a worthy death. But we're not fools. Not everyone can provoke us. We'll fulfill your wish to stall for time, but that's all. The Qilin laughed loudly. Qin Fangyang, do you understand? The three of them looked at each other and laughed. Qin Fangyang also laughed loudly. I understand. Thank you for your help, seniors. However, today's battle is imperative. We won't rest until one of us dies. The dragon, phoenix, and Qilin races have been the overlords of the world since ancient times. Today, I want to see who is stronger and who is weaker. The Qilin revealed a competitive smile on his rough face. Qin Fangyang, how do you plan to fight? The ancestral Dragon and primordial phoenix's eyes also lit up. Although they said that they would not be provoked, this sentence of who is stronger and who is weaker among the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin races still stirred up ripples in the hearts of the three leaders. This concerned the pride of the three races, and the competitive spirit in their bones soared. How can the dragon race be weak? How can the phoenix race be weaker than other races? The Qilin race has always been the strongest in the world. Even if you're provoking us, we're still the strongest. It's very simple. The safety of Shangjing is now in my hands. Qin Fangyang pulled out his sword, and the sword aura surged. In the three battles, which race can defeat me and kill me will naturally be the strongest. Qin Fangyang knew very well that he was able to stall for time until now. It was already a great success for his expectations. It was really thanks to the arrogance in the three races' bones. Otherwise, they would have launched a large-scale attack long ago. However, they obviously would not allow him to continue using words to stall for time. They were very clear about his goal. Provoking them seemed to work, but in fact, they were deliberately going easy on him. However, whether they were willing or not, he had ultimately stalled for time. There was no doubt about this. If he wanted to stall for time now, he could only use real swords and spears to fight for time with blood. Straightforward. Ancestral Dragon laughed loudly. You're a real man. Since that's the case, let's not talk anymore. Qin Fengyang said slowly, let's fight. Do you want to fight or send someone else? He smiled bitterly in his heart. Why aren't the ministers here yet? In all fairness, Qin Fengyang was not afraid of death, but he did not want to die. As a hidden chess piece personally arranged by Zhuo Changlu, Qin Fengyang had been waiting for the moment when he would make his move. He waited and waited, but it did not happen. This period of time, these few years, were the happiest days for Qin Fengyang in a long time. He found He Yuanyue's reincarnation, and accompanied her through these few years. He watched her learn how to speak, and watched her grow up little by little. Qin Fengyang's heart was filled with longing. Longing for the future. This battle would definitely be won. Many years later, even if she can't recover her memories in this life, I'll be very happy just watching her like this. Qin Fengyang thought a lot and longed for a lot. He had fantasized about it in every aspect. However, he did not expect today. At this point, he had originally gone to the front line to participate in the battle. He could also imagine that the minister would definitely make arrangements for him. However, such an unexpected incident suddenly happened midway. What should I do? Can I watch Shangjing fall and not care about it? Carry out the military order, and continue to go to White-Haired Mountain? Changing directions midway would be disobeying the military order. However, Qin Fengyang still chose to rush over to help. He had to do his part. After rushing for more than 2/3 of the way, he knew that he definitely could not stop them. However, could he just turn around like this? Now he was facing a 6-sided siege. The entire protective shield of Shangjing City was like a huge and fragile egg in the hands of the ancestral dragon and primordial phoenix. If he did not do so, the other party's subsequent attack would shatter Shangjing's protective shield. At this point, he had to step forward bravely. However, standing here meant certain death. He did not want to die. He really did not want to die. The future was beautiful. But now he was alone, facing the ancient god clan and hundreds of millions of experts. Even if reinforcements arrived, he would definitely die at the center of the 3 clans' encirclement. Who will fight this hero of the human race? A peak Zenith Heaven expert walked out from the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin camps. Their auras were solemn. Even compared to the ancestral dragon and primordial phoenix, their auras were not much weaker. It was obvious that although the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin clans were embarrassed to directly send out supreme experts, like the ancestral dragon and primordial phoenix, they sent out the top figures of their clans. The ancestral dragon said indifferently, Qin Fengyang, we won't bully you. If you win all 3 battles, we will immediately retreat. Qin Fengyang smiled bitterly. Win all 3 battles? In terms of true strength, each of the 3 people who came out was above him. What's more, they had innate martial strength. Come on. Qin Fengyang laughed loudly. Is Shangjing alright before I die? It's fine. Good. Qin Fengyang laughed loudly. Although the Dragon and Phoenix clans are here to destroy the human race, they are indeed worthy of being ancient heroes. They are proud and unyielding. They are indeed the best of both ancient and modern times. A reserved smile appeared on the ancestral dragon and primordial phoenixes' faces at the same time, as they turned to look at the Qilin. The Qilin was furious. You're right to say that the 3 clans are worthy of being ancient heroes, but why did you say one less name? No one paid attention to him. Qin Fengyang was already fighting with a black dragon. Please, please. Qin Fengyang attacked with all his might. He knew that there was a difference in strength between the 2 sides. If he fought steadily, he would naturally be able to buy more time. However, the other party would not give him the time to fight steadily. If that was the case, he would not even be able to survive the first round. The black dragon was a strange broad-mouthed sword. It had just bowed to its opponent and received the first move of the battle. Qin Fengyang directly closed in, and his sword flashed. Blood splattered. The black dragon attacked. Pooh. The first move, the first sword, stabbed into Qin Fengyang's chest. The black dragon never dreamed that it would be so easy. On the other hand, Qin Fengyang directly rushed to the other party's sword and locked it with all his might. At the same time, he created a suction force that was like a black hole, sucking the other party in. At the same time, Qin Fengyang's sword cut off half of the other party's shoulder and half of his chest. Qin Fengyang's chest and the black dragon's shoulder were stabbed at the same time. In the same second, blood dyed one side of Shangjing City's protective shield red. It was like a rain of blood falling. Roar! The black dragon let out a horrified and unexpected scream. He directly revealed his true form. On one side of his body, there was a wound that was hundreds of feet long. His internal organs were also exposed, and half of his huge dragon liver was also cut off. The black dragon's two huge dragon eyes looked at Qin Fengyang with grief and indignation. He was so angry that he could not speak. You. Qin Fengyang's body swayed. Blood spurted out of his chest like a waterfall. His chest was still exploding. The other party's powerful sword energy was wreaking havoc in his chest, and his flesh was still being torn apart. This sword energy had already exceeded Qin Fengyang's tolerance. The other party's cultivation was originally higher than his. The sword energy had entered his body. If Qin Fengyang wanted to get rid of this sword energy, he would have to go into seclusion for at least 3 months. Then he could use the heaven-mending stone to recover. When the sword energy was still in the body, it could not be healed. Everyone from the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin clans who could see the battlefield suddenly widened their eyes. Countless huge eyeballs protruded half of their eye sockets. The first move. It was not even the first move. It was just a probing attack. The first move was to fight with one's life. One was seriously injured by a sword in the chest, and the other had half of his body chopped down and fell on the protective shield below. With a rumble, it turned into a huge dragon claw, connected to half of his body that was hundreds of feet long. Just a moment ago, they were still chatting with each other. Now that the battle had just begun, it was already extremely tragic. I can still fight. Qin Fengyang coughed and straightened his body. The black dragon's sword energy was still flickering in his chest. Half of his body was constantly being torn apart, blood flowed, and white bones were ghastly. But he seemed to be unaware. But you can no longer fight. Or you can no longer be my opponent. Do you agree? Qin Fengyang turned to look at Ancestral Gregon and said, I won this first battle. Chapter 1409. Ancestral Gregon's eyes almost fell to the ground. He had seen everything since the primordial world. He had witnessed battles that were even more tragic than this, and had even personally participated in countless battles. However, he had never seen such a scene, such a situation, and such an incident. Looking at the black dragon who had half of his waist chopped off, his face darkened, and the corners of his mouth twitched a few times. He said helplessly, Ahem sigh, Qin Fengyang won the first battle. He wanted to say, the black dragon can still fight, this is nothing. However, after hesitating for a while, he felt that his skin was not thick enough. In the end, he did not have the cheek to say that. Not to mention his shoulders and hands, even half of his liver was chopped off. How could he still fight? What would he use to fight? Using little Gigi to fight? How shameless could he be? The primordial phoenix laughed out loud. Her face was filled with joy, but she did not lose her composure as she said, in the first battle, the dragon race represented the ancient god race and lost. However, the 3 races took turns to fight. If the dragon race lost, so be it. It's not the final outcome. Next, the phoenix race will fight. We will definitely save face. It's one thing for the dragon race to lose face, but the phoenix race will definitely not lose face. Not only will we not lose face, but we will also help the dragon race and do what they can't do. That is, we will snatch back the face they lost. Yes, this is a small matter. It's not worth mentioning. The ancestral Gregon's face was as black as ink. He glared at the primordial phoenix, as if he wanted to swallow her. However, he could not say anything. Only Qin Fengyang did not have any hatred. Instead, he admired him. After all, he had used his life as a bet and fought with his life to win against the black dragon. The second battle, the primordial phoenix narrowed her eyes. The phoenix race will fight. I think it's better for the Qilin race to fight. The Qilin said. This second battle is very important. It has to be as Qilin's. He was a discerning person. Qin Fengyang's current situation was very bad. Everyone could see this, so he naturally could. Any expert from the Phoenix clan would be able to kill Qin Fangyang on the spot. But in this way, the Phoenix clan would gain all the face. Although there was still the Dragon clan at the bottom, the Kirin clan still didn't gain anything. Alright then, the Qilin race will go first. The primordial phoenix was quite magnanimous, and she directly cupped her hands and gave up the right to participate in the second battle. While the three clans were divided into three parts, the Qilin clan was the clan that paid the most attention to peace and happiness amongst the three clans. They didn't rashly go to war, and only by doing so would they be known as virtuous beasts. The ancestral dragon and primordial phoenix were monitoring the situation, several thousand kilometers away with their divine senses. It wasn't a big problem. At this moment a Qilin leaped out. The ancestral Qilin warned, "The other party is willing to risk his life to protect others." Which means he's a complete outlaw. Such outlaws are rarely seen in the past. You must be careful of his desperate tactics. Just fight steadily and surely. Don't act rashly in the heat of the moment. The black Qilin, who was about to fight, nodded seriously. Then he leaped forward. "Brother Qin, I am here to seek guidance. Brother Qin is worthy of being a great man of the world, a great man of the present age. Moe admires you." This Qilin was dressed in black, and he looked mighty and square. His eyes were full of approval for Qin Fangyang. A loyal official, filial son, an upright man, was naturally revered by all living beings. A great man like Qin Fangyang, who risked his life to protect others, and used his actions to prove his true heart, had long conquered the vast majority of the people of the three clans present. Before the battle, the words of admiration all came from the bottom of their hearts. "You flatter me," Qin Fangyang said indifferently. "If there comes a day when other clans intend to exterminate the Qilin clan, I believe that Brother Moe will also make the same choice as me. Charge forward bravely and fight to the death." Moe's eyes flickered. "Brother Qin is actually my confidant. It's a pity that we're on opposing sides. After this battle, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to discuss wine with Brother Qin." He focused on the bloody flesh on Qin Fangyang's chest, and the sword energy that was still wreaking havoc without end. His eyes turned to pity. Qin Fangyang was silent for a moment and said indifferently, "Martial artists of my generation, seeking benevolence and obtaining benevolence. Dying on the battlefield has always been the highest glory. I, Qin, have a clear conscience when I'm alive, and can rest peacefully after death. My friends and family are honored by me, and my enemies are regretful because of me." Qin Fangyang paused for a moment and continued, "Looking at it now, it seems that it's close at hand and can be obtained easily." Moe carefully digested these few words. His expression changed, and he was filled with respect. "Brother Qin, well done. Please." Qin Fangyang raised his sword and bowed solemnly. "Please." Moe bowed with his sword. Then the two of them attacked at virtually the same time. However, the degree of devastation of this battle still exceeded everyone's expectations. Moe indeed did not underestimate the enemy. From the beginning to the end, he maintained a steady strategy of fighting steadily. From the beginning to the end, he did not give Qin Fangyang any chance to fight with his life. But what he did not know was that this was also Qin Fangyang's true intention. In the first battle, he used the most cruel and extreme method of exchanging life for life to obtain victory. This caused the three clans to have the misconception that Qin Fangyang intended to use this method to take down 3 cities in a row and gamble on a fluke. But they did not know that Qin Fangyang's true focus was actually the second battle. He made use of the opponent's mentality of avoiding his extreme method of fighting to continue the steady state, buying as much time as possible. The battle was indeed as Qin Fangyang had expected. He had bought time, but the price he had to pay for it was indeed unimaginable. It was beyond everyone's imagination. In terms of true cultivation, the black dragon that had fought before was above Qin Fangyang. Moe was even stronger than the black dragon. Naturally, he was stronger than Qin Fangyang by more than one level. Not to mention that Qin Fangyang was now heavily injured after the battle. The black dragon sword Qi was like a maggot attached to the bone. wreaking havoc on Qin Fengyang's chest. Qin Fengyang's injuries could be said to have continued to worsen as he fought. When experts like them fought, thousands of moves would be over in an instant. Everyone fought with speed. They would leave as soon as they touched each other. They would not linger in the battle. The clanging sounds of weapons clashing were even denser than the most violent rainstorm. Qin Fengyang did not make a sound, but Moe roared and exhaled continuously. In less than a minute, Qin Fengyang had already fallen into an absolute disadvantage. As for supporting with all his might and stubbornly resisting, he had no choice. Although he had the heart to fight to the death, and the current style of the battle was also what he wanted, no matter how much he wanted to kill, there was still a limit. His body's condition was constantly deteriorating under the havoc of the sword qi in his chest. Mo Yi's sword was like the wind, with the innate power of water and fire of the Qilin clan. He appeared around Qin Fengyang unpredictably. Qin Fengyang could only remain motionless and continue to be injured. His head, face, shoulders, arms, chest, lower abdomen, thighs, back. Numerous scars appeared on his body. This was still when Moe was not greedy and impulsive. If he attacked more vital parts, Qin Fengyang would only suffer more and more serious injuries. However, with such a dense accumulation of injuries, it was also difficult to bear. However, Qin Fengyang, who was covered in injuries, did not make a sound. He did not even let out a groan. Even though blood was gushing out and flowing from his body, he still calmly attacked with his sword. He tried his best to contend and maintain his body in a state where he could still support himself. He had the heaven-mending stone on him. Although it could not stop the continuous destruction of the black dragon sword qi in his body, it could have a considerable healing effect on other injuries. Only the beginning of the injuries could not be avoided. Blood was always splashing like fine blood arrows. There were too many injuries, and the injuries were too fast. In the end, the blood had already stuck to his body and flowed. Because with so many wounds, the blood in his body had almost flowed out. However, he was still calm. His eyes were like stars always shining. He had never given up. Even though he was surrounded by millions of enemies, even though he had fought to the point of exhaustion, he never made a sound. Time passed bit by bit. In the beginning, there were still people among the divine beasts of the three clans who were watching the battle. However, by now there was complete silence. Looking at this human who was bathed in blood and still fighting calmly, and doing his best to attack, their eyes were solemn and respectful. Facing millions of enemies alone, protecting millions of people in the city below, his life was in danger, his blood had dried up, but he still did not stop fighting. There had never been a moment when they understood the word hero so clearly. The first phoenix took a deep breath and said loudly, "Qin Fengyang, you have lost the second battle. Don't struggle anymore." Qin Fengyang puckered his lips and remained silent. However, the sword in his hand was like a storm, and it actually showed signs of counterattack for the first time. It forced Moe, who was worried, to dodge repeatedly. However, this forced movement caused many of the closed wounds to split open once more. However, no more blood flowed out from the wounds. Obviously, Qin Fengyang really didn't have much blood left in his body. The first phoenix took a deep breath while her eyes were filled with admiration. She said, "Qin Fengyang, you've already tried your best. You've already done enough for the people of the astral souls behind you. As the saying goes, risking your life to protect others is probably just like this. If you continue forcefully holding on, then only your soul will be obliterated. Why do this? We admire you for being a brave man, so we'll leave you a way out. So long as you admit defeat, then this battle will end." Qin Fengyang finally spoke. His voice was extremely soft and weak, because there were 2 additional sword wounds on his throat, and they were currently bleeding. This was the result of him forcefully counterattacking earlier, causing even more carelessness to appear in his defenses. If it wasn't for him dodging in time, his throat would have been slit by now. He said indifferently, "You were the ones who said that there would be 3 victories and defeats, but I never said that." The first phoenix was stunned and said in disbelief, "What did you say?" "Before the battle, I said that whoever can kill me will be the strongest among the 3 races. When I was about to draw my sword, I asked everyone, 'Is everything all right in Shangjing before I die?' I Qin Fangyang said it clearly. I'm fighting to the death. When was there ever a victory or defeat? Qin Fangyang's indifferent voice echoed in the void. The words admit defeat can be said easily, but it will never come from my mouth. Everyone, if you want to attack Shangjing, you have to keep your promise. Qin Fangyang laughed hoarsely. Before I die, Shangjing is safe. But as long as I'm alive, I'm the Great Wall. Chapter 1410. The primordial phoenix was speechless. He could argue with Qin Fangyang. We are talking about the outcome of the 3 battles. This matter is not up to you, Qin Fangyang. However, Qin Fangyang was so injured and still adhered to his original intentions. What was the point of arguing? It would only lower his status for no reason. The ancestral Qilin let out a long sigh and said in a deep voice, "Time has been delayed for too long. Even if this person is a hero, we have already given him enough face. Moe, kill him." Hesitation and respect flashed across the black Qilin's eyes. If possible, he really didn't want to kill Qin Fangyang. Such a respectable enemy. He had really shed his last drop of blood for his goal. Now, he was only left with his willpower to forcefully hold on, risking his life to protect others. Everything was put into action. At this moment, in order to stall for more time, in order to have more hope, Qin Fangyang didn't even self-destruct. Even if he was injured time and time again, even if he knew that continuing to fight would only result in his death, and that he wouldn't even have a chance to recover his losses, he still chose not to self-destruct. Because after self-destructing, it would be the time for the 3 races to attack Shangjing. It wasn't easy for him to use words to force the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin to promise that he wouldn't die in Shangjing. How could he give up so easily? Even though he knew that hope was slim, he still used all his life to try. Brother Qin, give up. Moe's usual dense sword light actually relaxed a little as he said softly, "You've already tried your best." Qin Fangyang didn't say a word, but the sword light suddenly became sharper. The other party's sword momentum slowed down. Based on a martial artist's instinct, the sword light suddenly expanded. However, his mind was already in a trance. In a trance, he seemed to have returned to the moment when he went out to travel with Qianqian. That was the most beautiful memory in his life. The corner of his eyes was filled with deep affection. The tip of his nose was filled with fragrance. Qianqian. He was in a trance, and his eyes were a little misty. There was some gentleness and affection. There was also that unforgettable bitterness and pain. What a pity. Qin Fangyang's face was filled with extreme loneliness. At this moment he had forgotten everything. He had forgotten that he was still fighting. Wielding his sword to dodge was already an instinctive action. His thoughts seemed to have left his body and floated away. Fresh blood slowly seeped out. The color was already very faint. However, the figure in his heart was becoming clearer and clearer. The devastatingly beautiful Lu Qianqian seemed to be wearing her favorite moon-white dress. She stood in front of him, looking at him with deep affection and pain in her eyes. We were supposed to be a celestial couple, but the wings of a pair of mandarin ducks were broken. I am still in my prime, but you are already old. You have a reincarnation cycle, but I don't have a chance to be reborn. Don't hold me in your dreams anymore, and don't recover your memories. The rest of your life must be peaceful and happy. I only hope that you will be satisfied in this life. Qin Fangyang murmured. His voice was low and ethereal. On the other side, the black Qilin blocked Qin Fangyang's sword and asked in surprise, "What did you say?" He couldn't hear clearly. Say what? Qin Fangyang's thoughts were interrupted. It seemed like a few little fellows had appeared in front of him again. Zhou Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong, Long Yusheng, Wanli Xiudat. Zhou Xiaoduo seemed to still be asking for trouble. Qin Fangyang revealed a smile from the bottom of his heart and murmured, "I really want to beat you up again." With a clang, Moe blocked Qin Fangyang's sword. He didn't use much strength, but Qin Fangyang staggered and actually lost his balance. Sigh. Moe sighed softly. Sorry. He could already see that Qin Fangyang was already a lamp that had run out of oil. There was no way to reverse the situation. The greatest respect was to fulfill his wish of dying on the battlefield. The sword light that was originally slightly sluggish suddenly sped up. It was like a shooting star in the sky, flashing past. It also pierced through. However, Qin Fengyang still remembered that the reinforcements had yet to arrive. His mission had yet to be completed. He couldn't die yet. He actually dodged instinctively. With a soft sound, Qin Fengyang's legs fell off his body. However, when his legs left his body, there was still not much blood flowing out. The blood in this remnant body had already flowed dry. The intense pain instead made the confused Qin Fengyang sober up a little. His thoughts that had drifted away like smoke suddenly returned. He held his last breath. The upper half of his body floated in the air. He turned around and stared at Moe, who was rushing back on the sword light. He actually laughed out loud. "I'm not dead yet." The unbearable look in Moe's eyes burned even brighter. He shouted loudly, "Qin Fengyang, is there any meaning in persisting like this? Is there any meaning?" Qin Fengyang's powerless eyes flickered with a trace of gratification. "There's meaning. Too much meaning. When you and I said these words, time. Didn't a few more seconds pass? Even if my life is like a candle, as long as I'm alive, I can still fight." At this time, the ancestral Qilin's body suddenly trembled. The ancestors of the three clans all turned their heads and looked towards the south. On the other side, there was actually a storm. Mottled layers of space were torn apart, as if billions of troops were rushing over. The reinforcements of the Astral Soul's human clan were finally about to arrive. The ancestral Qilin's expression changed. "Kill him." Moe took a deep breath. The sword light once again turned into a sky full of stars, extremely magnificent. "Qin Fengyang, I'm sorry." Qin Fengyang laughed hoarsely. "You have nothing to be sorry about. I, Qin Fengyang, have nothing to be sorry about. I, Qin Fengyang, have a clear conscience in this life." Haha. The remaining half of his body swung his sword at an unprecedented speed. At the last moment, he used up what little energy he had left to perform the move of man and sword as one. His entire person turned into a dazzling star and soared into the sky. At the last moment, he was completely desperate and resolute. But his eyes were filled with longing and concern. Qianqian must be happy in this life. Xiao Duo must work hard. At the real last moment, he no longer thought about his mission. What hung in his heart were those two people. The sword light was like a shooting star, resolutely rushing into the black Qilin's sword light galaxy. The last murmur drifted in the wind. The two sword lights, one strong and one weak. The stronger the weaker. But this was the most intense and extreme collision since the start of the battle. Between heaven and earth, there was a sudden tremor. The entire protective shield of Shangjing City was also like ripples of water, swaying back and forth. A mushroom cloud suddenly rose into the air, and the surrounding area was filled with explosions. But Qin Fengyang had already disappeared forever. In midair, the long sword shattered into powder, like the spring rain, drifting in the air. In the sunlight, it flickered like a rainbow. Between heaven and earth, there was a dead silence. Qin Fengyang, what a hero! Ancestor Dragon, Ancestor Phoenix, and Qilin stood solemnly in the air and bowed together. He deserves the highest respect. Then they turned around and ordered, "The Astral Soul's reinforcements are coming. Time is not on our side. We have to break Shangjing City's protective shield as fast as possible. First, we have to destroy the Astral Souls, the core of the human race, without delay." Yes. Countless experts of the three races agreed in unison, gathered their strength, and were about to attack. At this moment, a sword light suddenly arrived without warning, as if it had crossed the void and arrived. The bright brilliance illuminated all directions as clean and cold as snow. And what came was only a sword that no one was controlling. This sword swept across the sky, and the cold sword intent swept in all directions. What a divine sword! Ancestor Dragon's eyes lit up, and the joy of seeing a prey suddenly surged. This is definitely a rare divine weapon. I, your ancestor, have benefited from it. Ancestor Dragon stretched out his hand to grab it. But just as he stretched out his hand, an illusory white-clothed figure suddenly appeared on the sword, appearing as abruptly as this sword that had appeared out of nowhere. That figure was dressed in snow-white clothes, and his expression was cold. Ancestor Dragon was inexplicably shocked. This is soul materialization? This is fucking unbelievable. This was Wang Lingyun's illusory figure holding the sword, trying hard to imitate Ancestor Dragon's appearance. Although Qin Fengyang's battle did not last long, how could Shang Jing be completely unaware? It was just that the strength of those guarding Shang Jing was greatly lacking, and trying their best to stabilize Shang Jing's protective shield was already the limit. After all, the aftermath of a battle between grand heavenly immortals was already a difficult test for Shang Jing's protective shield. But Shang Jing was not absolutely without people who had the ability to assist in the battle, such as Wang Lingyun. As Qin Fengyang's battle continued, he had already completely fused with this war god sword, and could enter the battlefield at any time. If it was someone hot-blooded, they might have seen Qin Fengyang's heroism, and under the heat of the moment, they would have already rushed up to fight alongside him. And even if they were to die, they would have no regrets. But Wang Lingyun did not choose to do so. He clearly understood that the disparity in strength between the enemy and himself was great. The current stalemate was fought for by Qin Fengyang's sacrifice, and there was no more meaning if he joined in the battle. Even if he went up, he would only break the agreement that Qin Fengyang painstakingly made with the three ancient god clans. It would cause all of Qin Fengyang's efforts to go down the drain, and it would further accelerate the process of the three clans attacking Shang Jing. If the other party broke the agreement because of his participation in the battle, Qin Fengyang could not say anything. There were hundreds of millions of enemies. As long as a few of them came up, he and Qin Fengyang would be torn apart. Therefore, he could not go up, and he could not let down this promise that Qin Fengyang exchanged with his life. As long as he did not die, Shang Jing would be safe. Therefore, he could only take action after Qin Fengyang died in battle, and replace Qin Fengyang to fight for even a second. There's still me, I can still fight. Wang Lingyun said heroically. A mere spiritual body dares to talk nonsense about fighting with me? Ancestral Dragon was furious. Attack! He actually ignored Wang Lingyun's challenge. In the distance, a long howl faintly sounded, and it was the voice of Emperor Zhaixing, Yu Xingchen. Wang Lingyun laughed loudly. So what if you're a spiritual body? Today I'll let you know the power of a spiritual body. Before he finished speaking, he actually merged the entire spiritual body of the illusory figure into the Jinghong sword. Suddenly, the sound of a sword rang out, shaking the sky. The Jinghong sword rushed straight into the sky, and sword energy and sword intent spread in all directions, in an extremely frenzied manner. The Jinghong sword that flew into the sky seemed to have another sun in the sky, and it became more and more dazzling. Ancestral Dragon and Primordial Phoenix suddenly realized that the sword energy that was flying in all directions was actually not as much as the sword intent. It was a kind of cold, arrogant, and insufferably arrogant sword intent. This kind of sword intent was extremely pure. Countless experts raised their heads and looked over. The Jinghong sword instantly rushed into the sky, and then it let out an extremely ferocious sword hum, or rather, a boom, clang. It seemed to be experiencing the joy of battle again, and also seemed to be bidding farewell to the mortal world it protected. Then, it circled in the sky and suddenly exploded, turning into millions of pure sword energy that swept down toward the army of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin races. Countless experts blocked with their own moves, but there were also endless screams. This sword had the bearing of a sovereign descending to the world, but it also carried an extremely carefree and calm aura. This was originally Wang Feihong's last and strongest move back then. Since I'm going to the Jinghong banquet in the mortal world, I'll guard the glory of the mortal world. The sword technique of the god of war, the last sound of the past, actually reappeared in the mortal world today. To protect the mortal world, to protect the living beings of the human race, it appeared again. In the sky, Wang Lingyun's smug laughter scattered. Continent of astral souls, do you still remember the god of war? I, Wang Lingyun, live up to my grandfather's name of the god of war. Wang Lingyun's last voice was very proud and glorious. He was unprecedentedly high-spirited, unprecedentedly glorious. His greatest regret and pain was that the Wang family had gone against the tide and tarnished his grandfather's reputation. But now, this regret had turned into dust. These were the last words he said in his life, and also the words he was most proud of. I, Wang Lingyun, die without regrets. Wang Lingyun had achieved his goal. The sword intent that the Jinghong sword had accumulated for thousands of years erupted, and it had indeed successfully attracted the attention of the experts of the three races. Thus, he had won an extremely precious 10 seconds. As for the killing effect caused by the last move of the Jinghong sword, it was not important. What was important was at the last moment, when his last thought disappeared, he could clearly see that the void in front of him was torn apart. Emperor Zhai Xing, Yu Xingchen, demon ancestor Lei Changtian, and the experts of the astral souls had already rushed out with angry and anxious faces. They shouted, "Dragons and phoenixes, don't be presumptuous." Their voices were like thunder that shook the sky. Wang Lingyun's last soul fluctuation rested in peace. He had no more regrets. They're back. Teacher Qin, they're back. Although you didn't see it, I'll tell you now. We did it. We used our lives to fight for an opportunity for Shangjing City. You didn't sacrifice in vain. I didn't disgrace the name of the descendant of the god of war. A poem to send Teacher Qin off. Teacher Qin has been lonely and affectionate all his life. A man's heart is like iron until death. He personally tried to mend the sky. How powerful. Let bygones be bygones. Look at the current situation. The mountains and rivers are shattered. And there are many heroes. Walking alone with a sword and singing loudly. Thirsting for the blood of the enemy leaders. I laugh at the fame, but sigh at the snow on a beautiful woman's hair. Remembering the past, I can still feel the tenderness. Looking high today, the moon in the sky, my heart hasn't rested for thousands of years. And I remember her appearance. Searching for the traces of her, I tread through the mountains. Where this feeling is endless, there are enemies in all directions. Drawing his sword and fighting in the air, a man's heart is like iron. So what if I die? Chapter 14:11. Yu Xingchen and Lei Changtian were the first to appear, followed by Li Qinglong, Xiang Bing, and the rest. Countless soldiers surged out. In an instant, more and more people surged, as if there was no end to them. In a short period of time, they had already filled the sky. As far as the eye could see, the human clan experts of the astral souls had arrived in Shangjing, and were confronting the hundreds of millions of soldiers of the three god clans. Both sides were heavily fortified and filled with murderous intent. After a while, the other two groups led by the left and right heavenly kings, Sword Saint Qin, and the others also arrived. The human clan camp was even more powerful. The actions of the ancient god clans were not only swift, but also targeted the vital points. The most important thing was that the Hero Soul Pass had set up a no-fly zone, which was far less effective against the flight ability of the three clans compared to the other clans. Although the three groups had already rushed to the rescue, they still fell behind the enemy. Even if they rushed and almost broke their legs, it was only now that they arrived. Everyone knew that the current Shangjing was just an empty shell. The Star Soul human clan had placed all of their living forces in the outer regions with the intention of defending against the enemy outside of the country. Now that the enemy had caught them off guard and taken drastic measures, it immediately caused everyone to be exhausted from running for their lives. On the way here, everyone was frantic. They were afraid that when they arrived, they would see a scene of desolation, a scene of misery and suffering, and the destruction of the Shangjing. Now that they had arrived, they saw that Shangjing was unharmed. Everyone was surprised and simultaneously heaved a sigh of relief. However, when they looked at the formation of the three clans' armies, everyone felt a sense of oppression in their hearts. What was going on? We clearly couldn't reach the rescue in time. But why was nothing happening in Shangjing? Could it be that the plan of the ancient god clans was just for show? The army arrived above Shangjing, just to intimidate them? Otherwise, why didn't they move at all? Li Chenglong, who was most worried about the battle situation, finally felt relieved. Immediately, He felt his heart beating uncontrollably. It was an ominous feeling. He wanted to open his mouth to speak, but his mouth felt dry. Li Chenglong was no stranger to this feeling. He had felt it once before. But that time was Yu Moyan, and Li Zhongming came over, their faces pale. It's swollen, I'm panicking for no reason, it's like. Li Chenglong's face paled. You feel the same way? Yu Moyan and Li Zhongming's eyes were filled with panic and fear. Tell me, what is going on? It can't be. Something extremely bad must have happened to us. Li Chenglong's lips trembled. Someone as quick-witted as him already had an answer in his heart. But he couldn't say it out loud. Or rather, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He was even more afraid of getting Li and Yu's approval. At this moment, he would rather his judgment be wrong. Wrong, it must be wrong. Yu Xingchen went forward to negotiate. Although he didn't expect the three clans to withdraw their troops, he hoped that both sides would move the battlefield to a place far away from Shangjing. The Dragon and Phoenix clans didn't mind, but the people of the Astral Souls didn't want to fight in the sky above Shangjing. Once the battle started, Shangjing would be in a terrible situation, or even completely destroyed. This was something that could be expected. This was definitely not a suitable place for a battlefield. If the battle really started here, the significance of everyone rushing to help would be reduced by at least 30%. Yu Dongtian, on the other hand, flew down and headed to Shangjing to find out what had happened. He didn't miss the huge dragon claw on the shield. It was a shocking sight. Who had the strength to cut down the black dragon with one sword, when all the high-level fighting forces on his side were not here? After a while, Yu Dongtian flew up with a gloomy face, together with the old military minister who stayed in Shangjing. Along with him, there were a few masters of the aristocratic families in Shangjing, as well as a consecrator of the royal family. The danger of Shangjing is all because of the heroes who stepped forward bravely. After understanding the whole story, the group of people who came had a heavy expression. Yu Dongtian looked at Li Chenglong, and the other two. The news is very bad for you. I hope you can keep calm. Li Chenglong's face was pale. Who is it? When he asked this question, he was already more and more certain in his heart. A straight figure appeared in his mind. Just by standing there, he was already able to support the heavens and the earth. That time, it was a similar feeling, a similar situation, Li Chenglong tried his best to remove this figure from his mind. He was the one who was most unwilling to think in that direction. But when the thought surged, he couldn't control it anymore. When the three clans first arrived in Shangjing and were about to attack, it was Qin Fangyang who suddenly appeared in the sky above Shangjing. He single-handedly defended the pass with his sword. Yu Dongtian finally said something that Li Chenglong and the other two didn't want to hear the most. The three of them stared blankly and only felt that their bodies were about to collapse. In their minds, it was as if thunderbolts were exploding one after another. Li Chenglong desperately told himself that he was now a military advisor who controlled the whole situation. He couldn't lose his composure, and even more so, he couldn't lose his mind. Didn't Teacher Qin also encounter death back then? In the end, he returned safely and even improved greatly. Perhaps it would be the same this time. But he couldn't do it. His heart became more and more chaotic. There was only chaos, extreme chaos. Teacher Qin. Tears flowed down the faces of the three people silently. The reason why Shangjing was able to remain intact until now is all because of Teacher Qin and Wang Lingyun. Because these two people risked their lives to protect Shangjing, you guys were able to come to their rescue. Everyone recounted everything that Qin Fangyang had done in detail. LV Yingfeng's eyes were red and tears flowed down uncontrollably. Qin Fangyang was his son-in-law. His daughter was long gone. Now, his son-in-law was also gone. I only hope that husband and wife can meet in the underworld and make up for their loss. Yu Moyan gritted his teeth and said furiously, Shangjing has hundreds of millions of people, but no one came out to fight with my teacher? So many people are just going to watch my teacher die in battle, without doing anything. What kind of shameful thing is this? LV Yingfeng sighed softly, and said with tears flowing down his face, It's not that we don't want to come out, but we can't. If I could, I would have been the first to stand in front of Qin Fangyang. Our battle strength is shallow. It's fine if we can't compare to the dragons, phoenixes and Qilins, but who doesn't have some hot-bloodedness? But Qin Fangyang put in a lot of effort and risked his own life to use words to temporarily suppress the three races, giving Shangjing a chance to be saved. It's a small matter that we came out to die, but if we ruined all of his plans because of this, we wouldn't be able to make up for it. If the three races really broke their promise and attacked directly, wouldn't Qin Fangyang's sacrifice be in vain? All of the martial artists in Shangjing are about to explode from holding back. Although the martial artists in Shangjing didn't participate in this battle, there are more than 5,000 profound return martial artists, more than 1,000 Sky Soar martial artists, and more than 200 Dao integration martial artists. They sacrificed themselves to fuse their souls and cultivation bases into the protective barrier of Shangjing. They followed Qin Fangyang's example and risked their lives to protect others. Everyone wants to do something, but they're not strong enough. There's a limit to what they can do. The feeling of watching the heroes bleed in the sky and not being able to do anything has already made everyone's mentality explode. If the military didn't discover it in time and give strict orders to stop it, I'm afraid that more than 100,000 martial artists would have fused their lives and souls into the protective barrier of Shangjing. 200 million citizens prayed sincerely for the heroes. Qin Fangyang's longevity tablet is displayed in the homes of countless citizens. The moment Wang Lingyun rushed up, the name of the god of war once again resounded in the sky of Shangjing. Now Teacher Qin and the god of war are the two monuments in the hearts of the citizens of the Astral Souls continent. They're immortal monuments. The protective barrier of Shangjing covers a huge area. Even if the blood of countless heroes was spilled on it, it only made the barrier 3 times stronger than before. Although the barrier still can't withstand the attacks of high-level divine beasts like the dragons, phoenixes and Qilins, the blood of the soldiers and the souls of the brave warriors are attached to it in the most devout manner. They've really given up their lives to be with the barrier. They've all turned into the barrier. It's not that no one fought side by side with Qin Fangyang, but there were too many people who chose to use the same method as Qin Fangyang. Chapter 14:12. When Zhou Xiaoduo arrived at the place where Zhou Xiaoyan was fighting, he was a full 10 minutes late. That was because he met Yun Xiao, who had come to give him treasures. 2 gourds. The Grand Master of Heaven's Waterfire gourd, and the Primordial Beginning Saint's all-encompassing gourd. Master instructed me to send these 2 gourds to you, Yun Xiao said straightforwardly. The Waterfire gourd that I gave you previously was just the image of the gourd itself. This time, it's the main body. After saying that, she was about to leave. Zhou Xiaoduo was overjoyed. He hurriedly took the gourd and began to curry favor. Sister Yun Xiao, since you're here, why don't I bring you along? Let's go and watch the show. Don't you hate that patriarch Nether River? Yun Xiao rolled her eyes. When did I say that I hate Nether River? This kid clearly wants me to be a strong man, but he doesn't want to owe me a favor. He says that I'll bring you to watch the show. Doesn't that mean that I have to thank him when we get there? However, it's not impossible to make a trip. Coincidentally, I'm bored now. Anyway, I'm going to travel with Master to the starry sky at that time. There's nothing to be calculative about karma. However, if I can help Zhou Xiaoduo, I can repay some karma and express the gratitude of the disciples of Jie School. We can also leave some memorable memories for each other. In the future, there will be many things that can be recalled in the vast starry sky, and recalled time and time again. Only memories will forever belong to you when you're alive. With that thought in mind, she said straightforwardly, all right. Zhou Xiaoduo was immediately energized. Yun Xiao was already a peak stage sage-level expert. With such a powerful help, what was there to be afraid of? No, it should be that he was not afraid in the first place. Now, only the mountain was confident. Hence, he rushed along with Yun Xiao excitedly. When they arrived at the border of the Blood River, they saw that although Zhou Xiaoyan and the others were surrounded, they were fighting well, and were not at a disadvantage. However, When Yin Xiao saw Zhuo Xiaoyan using Dharma treasures, she was dumbfounded. She had never seen such extravagant use of Dharma treasures before. That was the same as using a Dharma treasure to randomly smash it. After throwing out a magic weapon, he actually used it until he exhausted all of his spiritual energy. Before retrieving it, Zhuo Xiaoyan fanned the flames of 5 birds, fanned dozens of times to the left, the right, the front, and the back that it looked like it was about to be scrapped. Even if it was a spiritual treasure, it would still be damaged. Every time it was used, it would need a long time to nourish its vital energy before it could be used again. If Zhuo Xiaoyan used it like this, the flame of 5 flames and 7 birds fan would not be able to recover without hundreds of years of nourishment. Seeing that the power of the fan of flames and birds was gradually diminishing, Zhuo Xiaoyan remembered to put it away. Instead, she threw out the great seal of 9 cauldrons and raised it in the air. One after another, mountains came crashing down as if they were free, causing the Blood River to surge. The Nether River Patriarch was also an ancient authority. For a moment, he did not dare to fight Zhuo Xiaoyan head-on, and was forced to hide from her. He only dared to find trouble with Gao Qiaoer and Zhen Piapiao. However, wherever he went, Zhuo Xiaoyan would chase after him. The Blood River army of hundreds of millions surrounded Zhuo Xiaoyan and the others from all sides. However, at least for now, they did not pose any threat to Zhuo Xiaoyan and the others. At least for now, Zhuo Xiaoduo could have come a few hours later, not to mention 10 minutes later. After arriving at the scene, Yin Xiao was about to make a move. She really could not bear to see Zhuo Xiaoyan's prodigal behavior. After this fierce battle, she would have to properly explain to this little girl the secrets of the Treasure Luck Envoy's attack and defense. However, she saw Zhuo Xiaoduo rushing to the center of the battlefield. With a few swings of his giant hammers, he created a central area. Standing on the spot, he laughed obscenely and waved his hand. Instantly, a void portal appeared. Rows of soldiers in bright armor were actually in a battle formation, charging out with great momentum. A total of 3 million soldiers appeared on the battlefield in less than 10 seconds. What kind of speed was this? This was the real tactic of exploding in the center. In the next moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo began to wantonly throw out the heavenly secret order on his body. At the same time, he also threw out the Zhu Yan's poison that he had collected before like grenades. Then he took out the earth hair dryer that he had not used in a long time. Not only did he use it himself, he also gave one to Zhuo Xiaoyan, and the others with the highest cultivation. Then he continued to operate. His life was endless, and his actions did not stop. With another wave of his hand, a total of 6 gourds appeared in his hand. The original Bai and Jiu, the 3 pure gourds each from the Taiqing, Yuqing and Shangqing sages, and the yellow-skinned gourd that carried the immortal slaying flying saber. These 6 innate gourds appeared for the first time in the mortal world. Guys, go out and do it. Do it with all your might. Little White and Little Jiu cheered, and took the lead to rush out. They had done this kind of thing too many times. They were already familiar with it. Then, with a gourd in his left hand and a gourd in his right hand, young Masters leaped into the air and shouted, "Mingi, I'm calling you. Do you dare to answer me?" Mingi did not say anything. "I'm not a fucking idiot. You must be up to something if you call me that. I won't answer you." However, he suddenly felt that something was wrong with him. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.